Yeah, yeah. Please remain standing for some convocation. Father Jew.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, source of all wisdom and peace, we thank you for the gift of a new year and for the opportunity to gather in unity and purpose. As we begin this meeting, we ask you to guide our minds with wisdom, our words with respect, and our decisions with justice and compassion. Help us to seek the common good, to honor the dignity of every person, and to work together in a spirit of peace, mutual understanding, and hope. May our deliberations promote justice, uphold human dignity, and foster harmony among all peoples, and contribute to a future marked by impact and shared responsibility. These and many other good intentions we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your undivided attention, please? Good evening, and can I welcome everyone to this meeting of Hertsmere Borough Council, including those in the public gallery and watching online. My name is Councillor Alpha Bird Collins. I'm the mayor of Hertsmere, and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we continue, please can I ask everyone to make sure that your mobile phone is turned off or switched to silent. Thank you. We have the fire evacuation procedure. On hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building immediately using the nearest available exit. There are exits at the rear and sides of this chamber. Do not, under any circumstances, use the lift. The assembly point is in the civic office car park. In the area next to the roundabout, you should not re-enter the building until it is noon to be safe to do so. The first item of business for council this evening is agenda item number 1. Is there any apologies?
I have apologies from Councillor Handley and I believe Councillor Morris. Oh, sorry, you see.
Okay, please, can that be noted? You will know, members, that robust but civil debate is the essence of democracy. The respectful conduct in the chamber is of key importance to the good reputation of our council. I will be keen to ensure that debate is civil and timely throughout the evening and would ask your support in this respect. 2 points in our procedure rules to avoid any misunderstandings by members. If you rise on a point of order to speak, I will immediately ask you to identify which procedure rule of law has been broken, in your opinion. If you cannot answer this question to my satisfaction, I will ask you to sit down, as it is not a point of order. B, if you wish to make a point of personal explanations, this only applies if you have already spoken in a current debate and feel that a member has misunderstood something that you said in that debate. If you rise on this point, you must have spoken in the debate. I will ask you to state specifically which part of your speech has been misunderstood. And if you cannot answer this, I will ask you to sit down. As before, we will be using the electronic voting system. Councillors, can you also please remember to switch off your microphone when you have finished speaking? This allows the webcast camera to automatically move on to the next speaker. Do any other members have any interest to declare? Well, there is here. Then we'll move over to agenda item number 3, the minutes. Minutes of the meeting of the council meeting held on 26 November 2025. These have been circulated. There can be no debate on the minutes. Only accuracy may be questioned. May I sign them as an accurate record? Okay. Yeah, please. Yeah, Councillor Courtney.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just looking at the printed agenda, which is published, and the minutes are not included in it. I've asked colleagues as well if they can see it. It doesn't appear to be here.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. I will seek advice from my team.
I can only apologise. They are on the website. We can take it outside of the meeting to look at it, but I'm seeing it on the website at the moment. So,
Okay,
sorry,
Councillor Newmark, yes.
Mr. Mayor, there does seem to have been a technical glitch here because they were on an earlier version that some of us received, but in light of the uncertainty, may I propose that we defer the minutes and take them at our next meeting?
Okay. Okay, that is noted. Yeah, please. Excuse me, pardon me. I would like to ask the chamber, is that agreed? Okay, thanks. Yeah. I recognize you, Councillor Hudson-Jones.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was merely seconding the leader's motion to defer the minutes, that's all.
Okay, thanks ever so much. Okay, then, thank you. I will sign the minutes at the end of this meeting. Okay, we'll move. Me?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we've deferred the minutes,
Yes,
so you won't be signing them at the end of the meeting.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for pointing this out and thing. We'll do the correct thing, the necessary things. Okay, thanks ever so much. We'll move over to item agenda 4, announcement by the mayor. It has been another busy few months. In November, I had the honor to judge our annual seasonal card competition. I was thrilled to attend St. Teresa Catholic Primary School to present the prize in person to the winner. It was a lovely morning. All the children sang fantastic songs, and many also presented me with their brilliant artwork. Leading up to the festive period, I was also delighted to attend many events, including a Christmas art festival at St. Nicholas, the NSPCC craft and gift fair, and the Christmas celebration of Rotary Club of the Studio in L Street and Borum Wood. I will host our Holocaust Memorial Day event on Tuesday, the 27th of January, a few days from now. Please note, for security reasons, entry will be restricted to a pre-booked guest list. Please RSVP if you are planning to attend and have not already done so. Friday is the deadline for bookings. We are currently also taking nominations for our annual Civic Awards. The details have been emailed to you all, and are also on our website for members of public who wish to nominate. The deadline for nomination is the 31st of January. On a sad note, please join me in sending our thoughts and prayers to Len Denbigh, Carol Denbigh, who organized our local puppy appeal for many years, sadly passed away earlier this month. She will be greatly missed. by the Hertsmere community and beyond. Agenda item number 5. Do we have any questions from the public? One question has been received from members of the public. The question is from A. Hatfield regarding the possible closure of St. Nicholas School in L Street. Do you have a supplementary question? Press the X button, please, to switch your microphone on. Where the person is not around. Okay, then we'll move on further. Sorry, this is a separate issue, but thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Councillor Newmark. Would like to respond to, oh, you're not, the person is not here, so we're not going to go into it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll move over to agenda number 6, Yeah. We had a total of 25 questions received in advance. As there are questions from across the council, they have been ordered as set out by the Constitution. As usual, members, the response to your questions have been published with the agenda. As such, we will move straight to the supplementary questions in each case, should there be any. Can I remind people that it does not have to be a question on a topic and response, and not a statement?
It does have to be a topic. Yeah. It does have to be.
Yeah.
Response has to be. Yeah.
Okay, your response will have to be on it with regards to the topic. Okay. Can I remind people that if your supplementary question is on an entirely different matter, I will rule it out of order. 30 minutes are allowed for councillor questions, and any not reached within that time will fall. The first question is from Councillor Sullivan, celebrating the diversity of faith in Hertsmere. Do you have a supplementary question on the same?
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your answer. I very much welcome the support of faith events across the borough, and I genuinely love joining in and learning from other community celebrations, whether Hanukkah, Diwali or Eid, because they break down barriers and help make Hertsmere more inclusive. That is why, as a Christian, I was surprised that we do not appear to have a visible borough-wide Christian event, such as a public carol service, to showcase our Christian heritage in the same way. Can the Leader explain why that is, and whether the Cabinet would be open to working with local churches to create an inclusive annual event for everyone? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Obviously appreciate it was before your time, it was before my time as well. But the council used to officially and formally mark Christmas with supply of Christmas lights and switch-ons around the borough. Under a previous Conservative administration, the council abrogated responsibility for that and passed it to town and parish councils around the borough, leaving the situation where unparished areas like Bushy and Potters Bar didn't have Christmas lights and didn't have official switch-ons. As you'll be aware, this year we rectified that situation and the borough did provide Christmas lights in Potters Bar and Bushy and organise a switch-on. I'm not aware that we've ever had a formal borough-wide church service, as it were. In many years, the sitting mayor has chosen to hold the civic service as a Christian service in a church, although that's not been the case every year, clearly. And I think you are absolutely right in terms of the fact that we do have an established church in this country, and I feel it's right and proper that on an annual basis we should be working with one or other of the church groups in the borough to hold an official event along the lines that you have set out.
Thanks so much. I would like to, Councillor Newmark, I would like to point out when Councillor Sullivan, when she brought about this question, I think before you respond, it has to come from through me. I think I have to recognize you. You don't just, nobody is here to just jump up and start saying something, Yeah. You are not recognized by me, Yeah. Okay, we'll move over to the next question. The next question is from Councillor Kaza, Aditya Kaza, about the implication of the fair funding. Can I have your attention, please? Look, let's be civil here. We are highly intelligent people here. The next question is from Councillor Kaza, Aditya Kaza, about the implication of the fair funding review in the local government financial settlement. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic, Councillor Kaza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Newmark, for your response. It's great to see that the Labour government has delivered the biggest funding boost since 2010 to local councils. So, could you tell us more about the specific impact this has had on our local residents and businesses in Hertsmere?
Yeah, Councillor Newmark, please respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Councillor Kaza, for your question. You're absolutely right. Under the latest multi-year funding settlement, not only do we have the benefit of the stability of being able to plan on a 3-year basis as a consequence of the multi-year settlement, stability and certainty that was taken away under the previous Tory government, which will be of incredible value because the idea that local authorities should plan on a hand-to-mouth, year-to-year basis was patently absurd. But the fact that we have transitioned out of Tory austerity, out of a scenario in which against the last comparable period our core spending power suffered a cut of 11% to a scenario in which our core spending power over the next 3 years will increase by 19%, we as an administration took immediate steps to ensure that a significant part of that increase will be allocated to expenditure on key frontline services. In the interest of time, Councillor Kaza, I will outline the specifics and the details of how that money will be spent in my leader's report later in our agenda.
Thanks, Councillor Newmark. Okay, the next question is from Councillor Maxie Allen on the new children's play area in Millbrook Green in North Bushy. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic?
Yes. Nearby, people have expressed interest in expanding the play equipment at Fisher's Field off Park Avenue in North Bushy. Now, that will need some consultation with the Friends of Fisher's Field, but subject to that, could he comment on whether funding will be available?
Councillor Myers, can you respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just take this opportunity to thank you for the special dispensation to stay seated this evening following an ankle injury, meaning it's very difficult for me to get up and down at the moment. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Councillor Allen, yes, I would imagine that NSIL will be used, can be used for Fisher's Fields as well, in the same way as Millbrook. So I would absolutely say the Bushy has a fair bit of neighbourhood SIL waiting to be used, so I would absolutely envisage that you could use NSIL for that. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'll move over to a question from Councillor Sussman. The spread of development in the local plan. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic, Councillor Sussman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you, I do. Thank you, Councillor Oakley, for your answer, which was most offensive. Evidence shows quite clearly there's a much higher density of development already approved in Conservative wards. My question is, how can you reassure residents in Hertsmere that development will be allocated equally across all settlements and not as published in the Local Democracy Reporting Service, which shared WhatsApp messages from Councillor Myers, clearly stating the desire that sites must go where you can't win seats, largely across Shenley, Radlett and Elstree? Thank you.
Councillor Oakley, can you please respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would love to see the figures. If you've number crunched everything from the previous draft plan, please supply me with those figures, because actually I have no clue. Things are done according to a spatial strategy. If you'd actually read those WhatsApp messages carefully enough, you would have actually said, or you've actually seen that I said that it doesn't work like that. That's not how I work, that's not how it's done. and that's not how it's going to be in the emerging draft plan that we're working on at the moment. You sit on the members' planning panel. If, and you were certainly around with the previous draft local plan, had that been the case, then I would have expected you to have pointed it out to me. But you didn't. You only seem to be wanting to point it out now. But do give me the figures. I am absolutely fascinated to look at those statistics.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much, Councillor Oakley. We have a question from Councillor Graham Alexander on the council's commercial or rental yields. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Alexander?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What are the key underlying risks to which the council's overall property and investment yields are exposed? And given the reliance on those yields to balance the budget, has the finance team stress tested how low those yields could fall under adverse scenarios? And if so, what are the results of that stress testing?
Councillor Shenton, I'll call upon you to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Alexander. A very technical question. I would have to refer to... there's no point in me just making it up and winging it. I would have to refer that question to the professional staff to give a proper, accurate answer.
Okay, we have a question from Councillor Sussman relating to the cost of Newberry's car park independent review. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Sussman?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Newmark, for your response. Assuming that BNP Paribas do not work for free, what was the cost, or did they do it on a no-sale, no-fee basis, the exercise they did for Newbury's car park recently? Thank you.
Councillor Newmark, I'll call you to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Sussman. I was a bit surprised that as somebody in the property business, as a local estate agent, you didn't seem to appreciate the difference between an independent review and a marketing exercise. BNP Paribas were paid approximately £14,000 for their services, which pales into insignificance in comparison to the £750,000 that your administration wasted on consultants and consultancy, receiving £0 value in return, leaving us to pick up the pieces, fulfil this council's statutory duty to achieve best value for the use of public funds, and come out of it working with Councillor Clapper to ensure that local residents got what they wanted and deserved, not just retention of the car park, but refurbishments and improvements. Once again, leaving us to pick up the Tory mess.
Okay. I'll move on to, we have a question from Councillor Aditya Kaza. Please give an update on the pension fund and the petitions. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Newmark, for your reply. Can I know what more can we do to make clear to the leadership of HBC that the strength and feelings across Hertsmere, that we cannot sit by and allow them to embark on this course of action, which is fiscally irresponsible, discriminatory, and harmful to the community cohesion. Thank you.
I'll call on Councillor Newmark to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Carter, for your timely question. Look, we had hoped that this issue would have gone away by now. We had assurances in multiple fora from the leader of the County Council that this fiscally irresponsible and divisive divestment plan would be dumped by the Pensions Committee. He said that full council would not dump it because that wasn't the appropriate place to do it. Many of us disagreed with that because we felt that the debate on divestment continuing within the structures of the County Council was itself toxic and corrosive. Sadly, the minutes of the December meeting of the County Council Pensions Committee show that far from dumping it, the debate has been allowed to continue and move forward, and proposals are to be worked up at the next meeting of the Pensions Committee of the County Council. Layered on top of that, we have a scenario where the County Council leader's home district council in North Herts passed a motion supporting these toxic divestment proposals, which I am told the County Council leader himself voted for, as did representatives of every other party represented on that council. Well, they may have their views, but I'm pretty clear, with the possible exception of the one member sitting over there who walked out the chamber before we had the opportunity to...
Point of order, please.
Sorry, I'm speaking.
Point of order.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, 1 minute.
Could I ask...
What is the order about?
Well, I'm not sure why he's trying to bring my views into this. It's not relevant. I haven't spoken at all about this particular item. I'm not sure why he's referring to other motions that were brought in. I think it's out of order. I think he should be asked to retract those words.
Councillor Alexander, just point out which part of the Constitution has been broken, the rules. Okay, Councillor Newmark, I'll call upon you to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wouldn't want to ascribe incorrect views to Councillor Alexander, which is why I was about to say that I'm sure that every member of this council, with the exception of the one who walked out the chamber rather than give an indicative vote on this issue at the previous meeting, actually shares my view and is opposed to Herts County Council divesting from any funds with any connection whatsoever to the State of Israel. And as such, I feel that I have a strong mandate to continue to oppose these toxic moves inside the County Council, working on an all-party basis together with our county councillors who also sit in this chamber. And if they don't dump this policy, it's going to have serious consequences for the state of relations between this authority and the county.
Yes, thanks all so much. I would like to point out that I would not appreciate people, personal attacks on others and things. We should be very civil here. Yeah, I hope that goes across the board. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, members, there was a second question listed as number 7. This was a typo and was question 17, which we will get to in due course. We have the next question is from Councillor Sussman. The Prime Minister's visit to Bushi Synagogue. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic? Okay, we'll move on. Okay. We have a question from Councillor Ponder on the Christmas lights. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic? Pardon? Apologize. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, it's number 17. It's number 17.
Oh. It has just been pointed out to me that it's number 17. Yeah, please do not interrupt me. Yeah. The mic is on. Yeah,
can
please.
the portfolio holder confirm?
Excuse me.
Sorry, just to clarify what's happened here, there was a typo on the agenda, which meant we had two question 7s. The second question 7 was actually supposed to be question 17 and was Councillor Alexander's. So it's in the correct order on this evening's meeting.
Pardon me. I will call on Councillor Ponder with a supplementary question.
Oh, no, that's Councillor Sussman's. Okay. Right, my supplementary question was about the lights. About Christmas. Can you confirm if the lights will be put up again this year and for the foreseeable future?
Councillor Morris, please, sir. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I can confirm that for the foreseeable future, Christmas lights will be raised in Bushey and in Potters Bar earlier than this year, in time for Diwali. So, yes, is the answer. Thank you.
We have a question from Councillor Cohen. How is the green belt and sensitive countryside being protected? Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Cohen?
Yes, thank you. Can I please ask the Cabinet Member for Planning who authorised reclassifying green belts as grey belts? When was it decided? Why hasn't the Council seen the document? And are you happy with your national government removing 10% of our green belts?
Councillor Oakley, please respond to Councillor Cohen.
Councillor Cohen, thank you for your question. I'm not entirely sure that your supplementary question is something that we can answer. We aren't reclassifying everything as you put it. Once we've actually got the draft plan ready and out for Reg 18, then it's going to become clearer as to the way forward. The second part of your question, could you just remind me what do I think of
the removal of 10% of the green belts, as it says in the financial strategy?
What you're going to be seeing next week at the members' planning panel is the spatial strategy, and I think that will give you a further understanding of the way forward it's going. So in a way, your question's a bit premature. You will be seeing quite a lot of evidence bases next week, along with that spatial strategy, and it will help you understand that. So do ask me again next time.
I'll move over to a question from Councillor Rani. What films in Elstree are coming out? Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic, Councillor Rani?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have. Thank you for the update, Councillor Newmark. How does the Council plan to use these high-profile productions to boost cultural tourism and strengthen Hertsmere's identity as a centre for film and television? Thank you.
Councillor Newmark, please respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Rani. Obviously, part of that answer relates to our £2 million plus investment in the experience. One of the priorities will be to reach agreements with production companies of the nature of Universal on that sort of scale to ensure that we have the rights to use their IP inside the immersive experience and provide cutting-edge screen tourism opportunities directly linked to films that have been made in Hertsmere. Over and above that, as part of the increase in our core spending power, our draft budget includes a £75,000 per annum allocation to support the screen arts in the area and to further develop, in particular, the thriving and growing studio sector and ensure that they have a competitive edge. We'll be doing that in partnership with the other screen clusters across the UK, particularly England and Wales. And in that respect, I'm pleased to announce this evening that we have started talks with Liverpool City Council about the possibility of a screen corridor between Hertsmere and Liverpool, enabling seamless, friction-free collaboration. In Liverpool, they don't have studios, but they have desirable locations and a strong filming infrastructure. Here we have studios, but we don't have the variety of locations that they have in Liverpool. We feel that a collaboration of that nature would be good for our local economy, good for our screen sector, and great for the country.
Okay, thanks so much, Councillor Newmark. I have a question from Councillor Selby about community skips. Do you have a supplementary question on the same topic, Councillor Selby?
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Community skips is a great initiative and one that I believe should be rolled out in our communities. Is it the plan to make community skips available at important times in the calendar, such as Christmas tree collection, Passover, spring cleaning over Easter, or will they be rolled out for use throughout the year? Thank you.
I'll call upon Councillor Richards to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Selby, for the supplementary and the original question. I think of the two scenarios you put forward, the more likely is the latter throughout the year, but with a focus primarily on spring and summer. We are still evaluating what is in effect a trial, the first two being Potters Bar and Boreham Wood. We are looking to get to other settlements in the borough, primarily next up Bushy. But we found that these work best when you have multiple departments involved, when you're able to sort of signpost residents from not just about sort of the skip itself, but also broader aspects of recycling and community safety and engagement. The CEOs do an excellent job in supporting those events. So we see these far more geared towards the times of year when people are more likely to come out of their houses and engage with each other and with officers and staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Wilson. I'll move over to a question from Councillor Rani about the impact of the Prime Minister's recent visit to Bushy Synagogue. Do you have a supplementary question to that effect?
Yes, I do,
Rani?
Mr. Mayor. Thank you. How will the council work with the Jewish community in Bushy and across Hertsmere to ensure that the concerns raised during those discussions translate into tangible local action and ongoing support?
Councillor Newmark, can you respond to Councillor Rani, please?
Thank you, Councillor Rani, for your supplementary questions. After Councillor Sussman chickened out of her supplementary on this topic, I think she was too embarrassed about trying to out-rabbi the rabbi, having focused on the minutiae of the visit. This does give me the opportunity to highlight the many positives and the follow-up that will emerge for that. And look, first and foremost, let me say, I'm really proud of the fact that there was a real contrast in Keir Starmer's visit to Hertsmere and recent visits by previous Tory Prime Ministers. They used to come and hide in the gardens of Tory grandees, drinking and sipping champagne and drinking canapes and talking to the Tory party faithful. When Keir Starmer accepted our invitation to come to Hertsmere, he got out there into the community, contended with the issues that are bothering our residents. He listened to ordinary residents and suggested solutions. I think that his engagement, in particular during the course of his listening exercise sessions with the mothers of the children who are pupils at the kindergarten at Bushy Synagogue, about their experiences of contemporary anti-Semitism had a profound impact on him. And believe me, he certainly wasn't talking to the party faithful, and they certainly didn't hold back in letting him know about their concerns. And in light of his visit and as part of our ongoing work, we'll be looking to strengthen our partnership with the Community Security Trust, working to ensure that our security and community safety funding grant is used to the fullest. And we have met since his visit with the representative body, the Hertfordshire Jewish Forum, and will be continuing to strengthen our links with them as a council over the months ahead.
Okay, thanks. I have a question here from Councillor Brisky around call-ins and the role of the planning chair. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Brisky?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. Thank you very much. And I hope the chair of the planning committee will understand that I do not consider her answer to be an answer to my question. But, Mr. Mayor, my supplementary question relates to planning application 25/1377/FUL, a 7-bed HMO on Stratfield Road that Councillor Alexander attempted...
Excuse me.
Point of order, Mr.
Councillor Brisky, we do not discuss our personal application or the things on the... planning applications.
So this is about the principles surrounding a call-in. Look, what I would like to ask...
Councillor Brisky, my team has advised me on...
Okay, fine, I will
yeah, maybe you can rephrase your
yes,
question.
I will do indeed. Mr. Mayor, would it be permissible for the chairman of the planning committee to refuse a call-in if it is just because it is one bedroom over the threshold, which should for permitted development rights for an HMO, just because don't laugh, which should be subject to the same planning process as any other planning application. And whose decision should it be to decide whether or not an application is policy compliant, the chair's or the committee's? And would the chair of the planning committee have refused the call-in for a 7-bed HMO had it been in her ward in Potter's Bar?
Yeah. I will call upon Councillor Green. Would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'm so disappointed that Councillor Brisky thinks that I can discuss current planning applications, because he should know better that you do not discuss them if they are still live. I will not be lectured in this chamber by anyone on fairness and democracy. Anyone who sat in the planning committee or watched it online can see that I allow a great deal of debate and discussion, and Councillor Brisky is often heard to be waxing lyrical about things that are absolutely nothing to do with the planning application in front of him, and yet I allow him his democratic right up to a point. I find it very difficult to take seriously criticism from a councillor who used their democratic voice in a planning committee to speak out against a flagpole. So, members, it is well known that under the Conservative leadership of this council, the gift of declining a call-in was given by them to the Chair of Planning. I approve or not approve based on individual merits, and each application is considered on its own merit. It doesn't matter what ward it's in. And he should also know that I can't discuss current applications. I always give my answers as to why I do and why I don't.
I'm going to move over to... Please. According to my team, we are out of town. We are out of time, and so therefore we're going to move over to. I would thanks everybody. We've exhausted all of the time allotted for this question and other things. So we're going to move over to agenda 7, item 7, with decision report, housing allocation policy approval. Members, please note the agenda has a minor error. The recommendation is for council to adopt the policy. I call on Councillor Matthews to move the recommendations as set out in the report. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to bring this report to Council this evening, asking you to adopt the amended housing allocation policy as recommended by Cabinet on the 16th of October. Local authorities are required to have policies in place stating how they allocate social housing. Hertsmere's policy has been in place since November 2019, with minor revisions in August 22. Given the acute shortage of social housing and doubling of homeless applications over the last 5 years, this review is long overdue. There is some urgency to achieve a more balanced response to housing need, ensuring that applications are fairly prioritised and that we make optimum use of all existing resources. This has been a long process where proposals were initially reported to Policy Review Committee last March and then to Cabinet in May, which approved the consultation process. The results revealed a strong level of support from the public and key partners, and were accepted by PRC in July. PRC also set up a housing availability task and finish group to consider how to encourage release of family-sized homes. This has met 3 times and is due to report back shortly. The main amendments include additional priority for social tenants suffering acute overcrowding and for underoccupied tenants, along with measures to encourage release of family homes. Preventing homelessness by increasing priority for families threatened with eviction or living in insecure accommodation. Reducing residential connection of relatives providing support to those wishing to move to the borough into age-restricted accommodation, where we can afford to be more generous for the few applicants coming through that route. Hertsmere residents will always receive priority for adapted or extra care accommodation above anyone from outside the borough. Increasing the age requirement from 50 to 55 years for people with no housing need, which also reflects availability, but changing housing association criteria for that sort of accommodation. And reviewing financial eligibility for those who could afford to buy or rent privately with income thresholds up to a maximum of £55,000 or savings over £30,000, those figures subject to annual review. The policy has also been amended to include new government regulations from July 25, providing local connection exemptions for care leavers under the age of 25 and victims of domestic abuse fleeing their homes. Finally, I would like to thank Emily Dillon and her team, particularly Maggie Benson.
Councillor, you have been muted, please. Yeah, please. Yeah, your time is up, please. Yeah, please sit down. Yeah. I'll call upon Councillor Smith to second the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to second this and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, this matter is now open for debate. I'll call on Councillor Hudson-Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a welcome, and I'm not criticising the policy as such, but as is often the case with very detailed things and technical issues, the devil is in the detail, and it seems that this paper has been drawn up with one oversight, perhaps, which is in relation to the financial eligibility, the assessment of income and savings limits. The savings limit, I fully understand, for people of normal age bounds. But for elderly people, the savings threshold of 30,000 is actually very low, because if you look at the income limit for properties, if you have a pension income that is not from a defined benefit scheme but from a defined contribution scheme, in order to get anything remotely like the income threshold, you would have to have a savings pot, a pension pot that runs into hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands. And therefore, what I would like the Cabinet member to consider and the Council to consider is that the savings threshold be properly disapplied for residents over the age of 60. At the moment, it's only referenced to their income threshold and in relation to properties that are age restricted. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move over to Councillor Rani, I think. Yeah, please, Councillor Rani, say your piece.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Housing is one of the most challenging issues we face as a council, and I welcome this revised housing allocation policy. This policy ensuring that in a borough where demand far exceeds supply, we are making decisions that are fair, lawful, and responsive to changing needs. What the report does well is acknowledge the limits we face while still focusing on prevention and fairness by encouraging better use of existing stock, particularly through downsizing and tackling overcrowding we can help more families without building false expectations. At the same time, earlier intervention for those at risk of homelessness helps prevent situations from escalating into crisis, which is both more humane and more financially responsible. I also welcome the way this policy reflects recent national changes, particularly around caregivers and survivors of domestic abuse. These are residents in our communities who deserve clarity and compassion in how the system treats them. While no allocation policy can remove the hardship caused by housing shortage, what this report enables us to do is ensure that our system is transparent, defensible, and focused on those with the greatest need, while making best use of the homes we have. For those reasons, I support the recommendation to adopt the updated housing allocation policy. Thank you.
Councillor Sussman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We are happy to support this recommendation. I do, however, agree with Councillor Hodgson-Jones and his point about the saving levels, as we must be very mindful of the vulnerable veterans and the older generations in this regard. With demand for housing, especially the larger family-sized properties, far outweighing supply, it is good to see that some proposed changes in regard to the eligibility criteria attempt to address this. As a member of the Policy Review Committee, I was able to be part of the scrutiny process of this report. As an estate agent in my day job, I am acutely aware of the challenges of downsizing and the fears and concerns associated with doing this. As a ward councillor, we deal with cases that demonstrate the challenges encountered. And it was for this reason that I was keen that this be explored further and instigated the Task and Finish group that I am the lead member of, accompanied by 2 other councillors, where we are looking at how we can encourage more downsizing where applicable to free up larger properties for those that need. This is a cross-party working group, and I'm ably assisted by officers, and also it is attended by the portfolio holder, which is looking at ways to assist residents with the downsizing process practically to alleviate the stress and worry surrounding such a big move. We have been able to work closely with several of the housing associations and look forward to presenting our final report, which we hope will go some way to easing the local demand for housing.
So, I'll now reach over to Councillor Clapper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will support this housing allocations policy because it reflects a reality that our residents already understand. Social housing in Hertsmere is scarce and it must be allocated fairly in a way that residents have confidence in. There is much here that we welcome: the focus on genuine housing need, encouraging downsizing so family homes are freed up, tightening eligibility so social housing is not treated as an automatic entitlement, and the move towards preventing homelessness rather than simply managing it later. That discipline matters to residents who work hard, pay their taxes, and expect public resources to be used properly. That said, I would like to put 3 points on the record. First, income thresholds. We agree that higher earners and those with significant assets should not be accessing social housing. But Hertsmere is a high-cost area, and there is a real risk that working local families who are not wealthy but priced out of the private market could fall just on the wrong side of those fixed thresholds. These figures need to be kept under review so that fairness can reflect local reality. Secondly, key workers. I raised previously whether this policy would explicitly recognise key workers, our NHS staff, carers, teachers, emergency service workers who keep our borough running, yet many cannot afford to live here. I note the provision recognising employment in the borough, which is welcome, but it is broad, and it does not fully address the pressures that our key workers face. This, please, could remain under active review. Finally, outcomes. It's a well-written policy, but residents are going to judge it on results. So we need to see shorter waiting times, less reliance on temporary accommodation, and more family homes freed up. So we will support this policy today, but support does not mean a blank cheque. We would like to see monitoring, transparency and a willingness to adjust particularly the key workers and the income thresholds if working local people are squeezed out of this. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Smith, I think you did reserve your right to speak. Please carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased to welcome this updated housing allocations policy and to support the direction it sets for Hertsmere. Access to safe, secure housing underpins everything else we want people to achieve in their lives. This policy strengthens fairness, clarity and consistency while making sure help is focused on those who need it most. From my perspective, as Council's Armed Forces champion, I particularly welcome the way this policy recognises the unique circumstances faced by members of the Armed Forces community. Service personnel, veterans and their families can experience sudden changes in location, disruption to family life and challenges when transitioning back into civilian housing. Too often, that can put them at a disadvantage in traditional housing systems. This policy helps address that by recognising service-related needs, supporting those who have served and ensuring that military service is not a barrier to securing a stable home in the community they choose to settle in. It sends an important message that Hertsmere understands its responsibilities under the Armed Forces Covenant and is serious about turning those commitments into practical action, not just warm words. I am proud that this Council continues to take a compassionate, thoughtful and responsible approach to housing policy. This report strikes the right balance between fairness, the need for local accountability, and I am happy to support it. Thank you.
I shall call upon Councillor Matthew to sum up, please.
Okay, if I can just respond to some of the points raised. Thank you, Councillor Sussman. We look forward to receiving your recommendations. Councillor Hodgson-Jones, we're happy to look at those concerns. We've said that these figures will be subject to annual review, but there may be a more difficult issue with that particular group of elderly people, which we'll have to look at. And Councillor Clapper, thank you for your comments. Again, you mentioned income thresholds. We'll look at that. There is reference to key workers and employment in the borough within the banding system, but I think there's a point to be made that rather than concentrate wholly on social housing, we need to be looking at all opportunities, and certainly there are opportunities around shared ownership, which could be appropriate for people on a middling sort of income. But we need to make sure that they are fully aware of everything that is available for them. So we'll look at that as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Members, are we prepared to vote? Are we prepared to vote? Yeah. As far as I can see, it has been carried. So thanks again for your support. Yeah. We're going to go over to item 8 on the agenda. This is the decision report, Local Council Tax Support Scheme of 2026 and 27. I'll call on Councillor Shenton to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is principally to continue the Council Tax Support CTS scheme. Over the past year, there's been a significant increase in claims for CTS, as will be reported in the next agenda item, setting the council tax base. This has led to the authority's tax base actually falling. Council is required by legislation to approve the local CTS scheme each year, whether or not there have been any changes to the scheme. No changes are being proposed to either the original CTS support scheme, first introduced in 2013, or the income banded scheme introduced in 2020, save for an annual uprating for inflation. The government uses the CPI for September as its measure for annual inflation, and for this year, the uplift is 3.8%. The CTS Hardship Fund provides funding to support claimants suffering undue hardship. This fund was topped up with £117,000 of unclaimed council tax refunds by this council in 2024. There is currently around £63,000 remaining in the fund, and it is proposed that this fund is carried over into the next financial year. So Council is asked to approve the continuation of the original CTS scheme, approve the continuation of the banded CTS scheme, and continue the use of the remaining CTS Hardship Fund. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call on Councillor Giorgio, please, to second it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second this motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you so much. Okay, this matter is now open for debate. I'll call on Councillor Hodgson Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Shenton is aware, this is a scheme that was introduced some years ago by the previous administration. The hardship fund was set up with an initial 100,000. That was some years ago. There's still a small amount of that left, or there was a small amount of that left at the start of the last financial year. It's been topped up by 117,000, which means that there was 126,000 available for the current financial year, and the expectation is that only 50,000 of that is going to be available by the end of this year to carry forward to 26-27. And what concerns me is the reasons behind the fact that in the first 10 years of operation, less than 100,000 was used, and in the past year, since Labour took power in central government, over half of the remaining fund has disappeared, and the expectation and the rate of usage, with a further 9,000 expected to go, 13,000 expected to go in the next 2 months, that the 50,000 carried forward may not be sufficient to see us through 26-27. So I would ask the finance portfolio holder to look at the amount of money in this fund, but also to look at why is this fund being used up so rapidly in the past year.
Excuse me, Councillor Butler, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. As the council represents one of the most deprived wards in the borough, as well as the county, I'm pleased to see this report being brought to the council tonight. And just to respond to Councillor Hodgson-Jones' comment there, actually this administration here has actually been encouraging people to take up the hardship fund and actually using the council's supply here, rather than what the previous administration did, which was never advertise it, mention it, or actually get people to use it. I'm really pleased to see this is being used, and I'm pleased to see it's helping people who I represent within the Cowley Hill ward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. I'll reach over to Councillor Alexander, please.
So we are asked this evening to approve the council tax support scheme for 26-27. No changes are proposed to the scheme itself, but in light of the figures in this report, in my view, we may want to look at that again. So in 21-22, during the COVID period, the council saw a 15% increase in the tax base reduction linked to council tax support. That rise then was entirely understandable. It reflected a national emergency, a sudden shock to employment, and a temporary surge in households needing support. Since then, the caseload has stabilised, but this year, 26-27, the tax base reduction has risen by a staggering 12.43%, taking the estimated annual cost of the scheme to 9.87 million. So we're now seeing a rise almost as large as the pandemic spike, but in a year with no equivalent external shock to explain it. And we need to explain what is driving this spike. The report proposes carrying forward around 50,000 into 26-27. We recognise that the original purpose of the hardship fund was narrow, to support residents transitioning into the banded scheme. But if the council tax support caseload is now rising as sharply as it is, and if the cost of the scheme has reached 9.87 million, then £50,000 looks increasingly out of step with the level of need implied by the data, whatever it's called. So I would ask, 1, does the Council understand and can it explain what is driving the recent spike in council tax support need? Does the Council believe that a £50,000 hardship fund is still adequate in the context of increasing financial difficulty on low-income households in Hertsmere? And the third question, has consideration been given to expanding the fund or redesigning it to reflect the new pattern of need? Thank you.
Thanks all so much, Councillor Alexander. Councillor Giorgio, I think you reserve your right to speak again. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In summary, for members of the public who I welcome this evening, this agenda item is a routine annual item to set the local council tax support scheme to provide reductions in council tax for residents on low income. This agenda item ensures that we're up to date with the base legislation and requirements as described in Section 4 and effective as on the 1st of April 2026. It also continues the banded scheme introduced in April 2020 with an amendment for an increase in banding to reflect inflation set at the September Consumer Price Index of 3.8% as mentioned. The percentage reduction and income thresholds for this local council tax supported scheme are broken down into protected and non-protected groups and are detailed in tables 1 and 2. I'd like to thank at the moment Mr. Martin Lewis actually for his recent work on publicising the local council tax support scheme online, especially around the rules regarding carer council tax discounts. Unfortunately, many councils have not publicised that these allowances are available to their residents, but thankfully I've checked that this information is available on our website and any discounts and exemptions are detailed under that page. If there are any ways in which we can improve the information presented on our website, I welcome members to write to me and we can do so. Councillor Hodgson-Jones is right that we are making rapid use of this fund. As this council, we're not going to be hiding or squirreling away funds into various budgets. We're going to make sure that we're using those funds to help the people who most need them in our borough. We work closely with organisations such as the Citizens Advice Bureau to ensure that residents are able to access the funds they're entitled to. In Hertsmere, residents in some of our most deprived wards, such as Cowley Hill, Brookmeadow and Oakmere, are likely to benefit from being able to reduce their council tax burden, and so I believe it's right and fair that we work together to approve this item. As this agenda item is presented to full council because changes are required by legislation to be approved annually, I'll therefore welcome you all to approve this item. Thank you.
I'll now call on Councillor Shenton to sum up this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are accelerating the use, as Councillor Butler says, of the fund, and it is up to this council if it wishes to put more money into it at a later date. The important point of this motion is that we continue the CTS scheme that we have in place, but we are always entitled to add to it. This doesn't replace universal credit, so I think to Councillor Alexander's point, our support schemes do not make up most of somebody's income who is on a very low wage or is unemployed. We will obviously continue to evaluate this scheme, and should we find that we have used all the money that the 117,000 from unclaimed council tax, it is always within the gift of this council to make a further contribution to the council tax support scheme. Thank you.
So I'll pop up the question. Are we ready to vote now on this issue? Okay, yeah. Please, sir. So it's unanimous, it's been carried. We're now going to look at agenda item number 9, decision report, setting the council tax base of 2026 and 27. I call on Councillor Newmark. Oh, pardon, Councillor Shenton, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to inform the county, town and parish councils and the Police and Crime Commissioner of Hertsmere's tax base in order for them to set their budgets. The calculations will also be used by this council to set our council tax at our next meeting. We are legally obliged to do this by the end of this month. The number of actual properties on the valuation list in Hertsmere has risen by just 119, from 45,860 to 45,979. Converting to Band D equivalents, this equates to an increase of 132.5 properties, which is just 0.26%. The number of properties the Council Tax Support Scheme, CTSS, has grown by is 476.9 Band D equivalents, which means that Hertsmere's council tax base has gone down by 210.3 or 0.49%. That gives us a total tax base of 43,121. Table 1 of the report on page 100 shows that breakdown by parish. The authority is required to estimate the collection rate for the year. For 24/5, the collection rate was estimated to be 98%, taking into account ongoing recovery after the financial year end. Based on current monitoring, whilst the collection rate is slightly below the target, it is anticipated that by year end or slightly afterwards, the target rate of 98% will be achieved again. It is believed that a council tax rate of 98% is still appropriate, and therefore recommended that a 98% collection rate is used for 26-27 budget setting purposes. I move the recommendation on page 107 of the agenda that the council approve the council tax base for 26-27 as described. Thank you.
I'll call on Councillor Newmark to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this report and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, this matter is now open for a debate. I'll first call on Councillor Sajdev.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Alexander was asking earlier, somewhat puzzled, about why the council tax support scheme is rising so much. And that's because he's an astute financial individual working for the Bank of England. But he's looking in the wrong place. This is to do with politics, not finance. Because we've got a Labour national government, a Labour-led local authority, so of course we're going to have greater council tax support. But this is not a good news story. In fact, our council tax base is going down. That's not something this administration should be proud of. Secondly, Councillor Shenton just talked about the council tax collection. This is another example of the administration taking their eye off the ball. So we have a smaller tax base and we're becoming worse at collecting the tax revenues. So in fact, this is 200 basis points worse than when we left the administration a couple of years ago. This is hardly a promising picture, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Green, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as Councillor Shenton said, we have a legal responsibility to do this, and one of the key positives in setting a council tax base is financial stability. By accurately setting it, we can plan our budget with confidence, ensuring essential services like waste collection and other things are properly funded. It promotes fairness and transparency. The process ensures that contributions are based on up-to-date information, so everyone will pay their fair share. It supports growth as new homes are built, and added to the tax base, our community gains additional revenue without increasing the rate for existing residents. And in short, setting a council tax base is not just an administrative task, it is a cornerstone of responsible local government, and it enables us to deliver services planned for the future and keep our community strong and sustainable. Thank you.
Now I'll reach to Councillor Alexander, please.
Thank you, Chair. So despite a net increase of 119 properties this year, our actual tax base has actually contracted by over 210 Band D equivalents. And as Councillor Sachdev pointed out, the report makes the reason manifestly clear. A significant surge in council tax support claims has acted as a drag on the tax base, so an adverse change of nearly 477 Band D equivalents which more than offsets the new properties. And this is a red flag. It shows that while we are building more, our existing residents are struggling more, their quality of life is being eroded, and all of this actually comes at a cost to this council. So I'm not going to get into the wider national politics and whether Labour or Conservative is right. We're Hertsmere first, so we let you do the fighting there. You're very welcome. But we will continue to champion the quality of life for our Hertsmere residents. And as we move to the main budget debate, we must ensure a wider financial and spatial strategy reflects this reality for our residents, and that we start to take action to stem this worrying tide. Thank you.
I think, Councillor Newmark, you did reserve your right to... Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I speak?
Oh, no, it's... Yeah.
You want to speak? There is a spare place for us Conservatives to speak.
Councillor Hudson-Jones, you would like to...
Thank you.
Because I didn't see any name written here, that's why I...
The reason I'm not on your list is I hadn't intended to speak. I'm just going to make a very brief comment. In years past, I used to move this item, and I would say it was a technical item, and nobody else would say anything. And I'm drawing attention to the fact that we've actually had a debate about what this paper means and the implications of it. And in nearly 20 years on this council, this is the first time this has ever happened. And I want people to recognise that this is an unusual situation, but both Councillor Sackdev and Councillor Alexander put their fingers on why we're in this unusual situation. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Newmark, you did reserve your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think Councillor Hodgson-Jones was actually entitled to that speech under the rules, but I knew precisely what he was going to say, which was why I didn't object, because year after year after year, he was the one that got up and said to us that this is purely a technical paper. And you know, he's right, because how do we reach the council tax base? Well, we take H, we subtract Q, we add E and J, we close off one set of brackets, then we subtract Z, close off the second set of brackets and multiply it by F over G. And if you want to know what all the initials stand for, they're set out in section 6.5 of your report. Every time we tried to get people talking about the politics of this, he was the face of the Tory party that tried to shut it down. So we've seen today the two faces of Tory economic policy, but they actually add up to the same thing. Because why has the draw on that council tax support fund increased so heavily? Because they are the people who crashed our economy and expected local residents to pay. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. And it shocks me that the councillor who used to consider himself to be on the left of the Labour Party is now scoring political points from people who are left in a situation that need to claim council tax support. I find that shameful. The other reason that we're in a situation where the council tax base isn't expanding as much as we would like is very simple, because under 24 years of Tory leadership of this authority, they blocked the building, they failed to build the homes, they created the housing crisis that we are now rapidly working to address. But houses don't get built overnight. This situation will resolve itself as the new developments come on stream. And I'm very pleased that today the party opposite have emphasised why we need more homes in Hertsmere.
Your time is up, please. I'll call on Councillor Shenton to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is, as everyone points out, it is a technical report so that we can send our figures to the County Council, etc., for them to pay their bit. The council tax base is falling because of increased hardship and because we haven't been approving applications for housing development as well. We know that we currently are expecting applications to the Planning Inspectorate against our planning committee's decision to reject at least 2 applications, might be more by now. But as I say, this is a technical motion. We have to fill the details in, we have to send them off by the end of the month. So I think enough said. I think please support the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Shenton. Members, are we ready to vote on this issue? As far as I can see on the monitor, it has been carried unanimously. Okay. We're going to look at item 10 on the agenda. That's decision report with regards to financial strategy of 2026. I call on Councillor Shenton to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You'll be glad to know this is my last one. The financial strategy is a very important document laying out a key part of the Council's corporate strategy. As such, it has been subject to a thorough process of review and update, especially by Cabinet and the Policy Review Committee. The Fair Funding Review discussed by Cabinet last week discussed the financial strategy and updated it appropriately. The strategy was last approved in 2018 and was due to be reissued in 2022 by the previous Council. We do need to acknowledge, though, that the medium-term financial plan is updated every year and will continue to be so. Assuming local government reorganisation proceeds to plan, this is the Council's final financial strategy. The Policy Review Committee raised a number of questions on homelessness, savings, reserves and contingency. These questions and comments have been answered and/or incorporated into the strategy. Specific case being increasing the contingency budget from 300,000 to 500,000. The updated report was then presented to Cabinet, who recommended it to this Council. The policy set out the balances and reserves policy, which is set out in detail in the appendix to the paper. It sets out the current and forecast levels of usable revenue and capital reserves. I think it's worth reminding ourselves that whilst we won't be Hertsmere councillors in 4 years' time, most of us will still be residents, as will the overwhelming majority of our constituents. Councils must set balanced budgets. Core spending power must fully offset net budget requirements. It's very hard to compare the current year's funding settlement with next year's and the following 2 years. A number of separate grants have been rolled into the revenue support grant and business rates growth has been consolidated. But I draw members' attention to the table of core spending power 24.5 to 28.9, which is on page 119 of this agenda. This has been reverse engineered to show what the fair funding allocation would have been on current rules, so it provides a valuable comparison between the current funding mechanism and the imminent future model. Very effective management of the Council's finances by our professional staff and this administration have put us in the strongest financial position that we could reasonably expect. We have weathered the threats of the Fair Funding Review very well. That really mustn't be misinterpreted as a belief that we've won the Euro Millions lottery, though. We will still get less money from the government next year than we have this. The table on page 119 explains how our grants plus retained business rates have fallen, even before inflation. I move that we support the recommendation listed on the order paper. To note the comments of the Cabinet.
Pardon me, Councillor Shenton, you've been muted. Thanks so much. I'll call on Councillor Newmark to second this. Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this report and reserve my right to speak.
Now this matter is now open for a debate. I'll first call on Councillor Sajdev, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find it quite incredulous that Councillor Newmark was earlier this evening celebrating the fact that we are one of these 68 councils protected by this negative funding floor. So let's be absolutely clear. We are getting less money from the government, but it's only falling by 5%, and Councillor Newmark is proud of that. So this is nothing to be proud of at all. In fact, this is really just an accounting change because of, as Councillor Shenton was talking about, the funding review and the business rate reset. And in fact, all it is because our previous government funding was elevated because of the business rate growth being outside of our core spending power. But hey, why let the truth get in the way of what Councillor Newmark wants to say? But what is important is that actually this business rate growth, the assumptions that are in here, the reason why our business rate growth has been strong is because of the decisions made by this side of the administration about Sky Studios, Elstree Film Studios. These are the lion's share contributions towards our business rates. And it's on that growth that the government funding has been cut accordingly. Now, again, business rates is really, really significant. And it's another criticism that I have in this strategy. I believe our assumptions here are just too optimistic. When I speak to some of the shop owners in Potters Bar Parkfield and Darks Lane, some of them have actually said, especially those obviously in hospitality, that their business rate bills are expected to go up by nearly 50% over the next 3 years. That is really, really concerning. And I don't know how, this is very concerning for the authority, and I think we've been too optimistic here in these numbers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kaza, please say your piece.
Thank you, Chair.
This budget marks a real turning point for Hertsmere. For the first time in many years, we are just not balancing the books for 1 year and hoping for the best. We are setting out a year-on-year spending increases alongside a balanced budget with an unfunded revenue pressures for the next 3 years. That matters because for too long, local government has been trapped in a cycle of short-term fixes and managed decline. This budget shows we are finally moving beyond that era. The difference is certainty. For the first time in over a decade, councils have been given a multi-year government settlement. That may sound technical, but the impact is profound. It allows us to plan properly, invest sensibly, and protect frontline services rather than constantly firefighting. As a result, Hertsmere's spending power has increased significantly, and crucially, it is secure. That security is what enables us to invest more in the service residents rely on, while keeping our finances sustainable and responsible. This settlement enables us to direct more funds towards areas of deprivation, send recipients and frontline services like street cleaning, sweeping, litter picking, etc. Increase the number of CEOs would enormously reduce fly tipping activity. In addition, the borough would be able to direct funds towards community tech hub and promotion of AI. This is not about reckless spending, it's about confidence. Confidence to invest in our communities, confidence in support our workforce, and confidence that we are no longer governing in a permanent state of Tory uncertainty. I am proud to support it. Thank you.
I'll invite Councillor Cohen to respond.
As you've come to expect, my first words begin with GB, and I'm not talking about Great Britain. In the forward to this financial strategy, the administration now states that Hertsmere is 70% green belt, yet in the previous financial strategy 5 years ago, it was 80%. That's not a simple error. That's a major change for any borough. So the question is simple. How has 10% of our green belt apparently disappeared? And it matters politically too, because the Cabinet Member for Finance presenting this is a Liberal Democrat who campaigned strongly on protecting the green belt in Bushy. Residents care deeply about green belt. It fills my emails. It defines Hertsmere. It protects our communities from overdevelopment. And if the council is now accepting a much lower figure, then members and residents deserve a clear explanation, not a silent change which has been buried in this strategy document. But the problem goes wider than just one statistic. During scrutiny of this strategy, members were told that Hertsmere Developments Limited has no further projects in the pipeline and is likely to be wound up. Yet when asked what financial losses it has incurred, we were told this could not be discussed in public. That should concern every councillor in this chamber. This is a council-owned property. It involves public money and it may involve real liabilities. A company in that position is not a footnote. It is a material financial risk. It should be properly set out in a financial strategy with its current position, any liabilities and any impact on reserves or future budgets made clear. Instead, it appears only as a passing comment in committee minutes. And it is not what residents expect when we are asked to approve a long-term financial plan. So tonight, as the Conservative opposition, we're asking for two basic things: honesty about the true position of the Green Belt and honesty about the financial consequences of decisions taken by this Labour Liberal Democrat administration. Thank you.
Councillor Alexander, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, firstly, I commend the portfolio holder and officers for the huge amount of work that has gone into the financial strategy and related reports. I would, however, like to draw attention to key areas which I feel would benefit from greater transparency and more scientific treatment of risk management. So first, staff retention. The Chief Financial Officer's statement in the January Cabinet Papers calls out rightly that staff retention is a key concern, and no doubt elevated by uncertainty following the government's devolution programme. Yet, the budget in its current form proposes only a 3% pay increase for the majority of our hard-working staff, which is below the rate of inflation. How can the portfolio holder justify this increase when much greater rises are being seen elsewhere in the public sector and when previous pay increases to our staff have not kept up with rising cost of living? And this discrepancy is made all the more stark by the £250,000 allocated for senior management restructuring and the £285,000 agreed at the last council meeting for a new corporate management function. Second, the £500,000 contingency reserve. And this figure appears to be somewhat finger in the air. Without any discernible scenario analysis, it's impossible to say whether the contingency is adequate, not enough, or perhaps even excessive. What specific scenarios have been modelled that would cause this £500,000 contingency to be extinguished? For example, and I come back to scenarios again, how has the Council quantified the exposure to interest rate shocks, a significant commercial tenant default scenario, such as we've seen the likes of before, or natural disasters, such as flooding, pandemics and the like? And then third, ring fencing and adequacy of reserve. The CFO states that the reserves are adequate, yet simultaneously notes that our 40 million of reserves will be depleted by what he describes as an ambitious 4-year capital programme. So how do we reconcile both of those statements? And finally, on the rough sleeping grant, the £224,000 allocated for just 2 officer posts averages £112,000 per officer post. That figure seems perhaps excessive for tackling homelessness.
Yeah, Councillor Alexander, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, your time is up. Yeah. Yes, I'll call on Councillor Newmark. You did reserve your right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Councillor Sachdev can dress it up in technicalities. Councillor Alexander can spout self-contradictory criticisms of our expert officers. But the reality is that this financial strategy represents the local impact here in Hertsmere at the end of 14 years of Tory austerity. This financial strategy for us here in Hertsmere represents a seminal increase in our core spending power, because anybody who knows the first thing about local government finance understands that what really matters is the amount of money you are able to spend on public services. And that is abundantly clear, my friends. We have reversed an 11% cut over the previous comparable period to a 19% increase. The figures in the table that Councillor Shenton referenced are absolutely clear. We've gone from 16 million core spending power to nearly 20 million next year alone. We have more money available to invest in front-line public services, and that is a result of a Labour government's fairer funding policy that's given us a chance, for the first time in a generation, to turn the page on a decade of cuts and callousness, and enables us as local leaders to invest in getting back what they threw away and they lost. Youth services, clean streets, community hubs, hyperlocal projects, growth in our economy, and increased support to those who need it most. So They can pick a paragraph here or there in a report. They can criticise our hard-working officers, or they can throw technicalities at you. But the reality is there in that table. Next year, we have
your time is
more
up,
money to spend.
Yeah. I'll call on Councillor Shenton to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of being one of the 68 councils who are so well managed and so rich as to be get a 5% cut. It was inevitable. I think central government, the previous central government and the current one, will do things for political reasons. The fact is that our underlying financial security, the excellent management from our permanent staff has put us in a position to survive that 5% cut and still have money to put into the priorities of this council and the residents of the borough. Similarly, the amount of green belt, the introduction of grey belt is unfortunately way beyond my pay grade. I would rather that we had more control of planning. We just live with the consequences of it. And clearly, as I stated that in the previous item, that we have a growth of only less than 120 properties, shows that our planning process has not been effective, fit for purpose. Staff retention and the pay increase is something that will come out of the budget in a month's time. I very much hope we can find more money to increase our pay offer, but at the moment, this is just the initial situation. So I recommend this motion to be passed. It is an excellent financial strategy that has been taken a huge amount of expert work from the head of finance and his staff, and it shows a way forward for our last 3 years. Thank you.
Not so much. I think, members, we need to carry this for a vote. Are we ready for the vote? Well, it's unanimously carried. Thanks so much. We're going to move over to agenda item number 13. No, pardon me, 11, please. I'm a bit ahead of myself. Okay, 11 is about decision report on local authority housing fund. The funded acquisition with regards to residential properties. I call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the remarks I made earlier about the housing crisis we face in this area, it won't surprise members to hear that given our particular shortage of family-sized homes available at social rent, we act to grab every opportunity to expand our portfolio in that regard. As such, I'm grateful to officers and scrutiny chairs and the Mayor for enabling us to bring forward this report under the urgency provisions, because we have a slightly unique situation in which we are able to acquire 3 family-sized residential properties in Shenley, Bushy and Boreham Wood, respectively. 2 as a consequence of the work that Councillor Matthews and myself have recently been doing with Peabody Housing Association on their disposals, and 1 via the private market. But in order to acquire these properties with the benefit of central government funding for 40% plus £16,000 per property of the cost, we need to complete these purchases within a very tight time frame. So, to put it very simply, the report is asking Council to authorise the purchase of these 3 residential properties that will come forward as social rent housing, family sizes, much needed, 40% plus a little bit more of the cost will be met by central government. It's a great opportunity. As an administration, we don't just sit around talking, we grab opportunities when they appear, and we require Council's authorisation to move forward with this purchase. I urge members across the Chamber to support this report and help us take a small but important step forward in addressing the social housing deficits.
Councillor Matthew, I'll call upon you to second this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome this proposal to take full advantage of the LAF funding to meet the needs of larger families and to do so within the government's deadline. I'm particularly pleased that as part of that we'll be purchasing a couple of properties from Peabody. We met with their chief executive last year and we've hammered out an agreement. Interim arrangements are in place. It will form the basis of an agreement to be finalised for the new financial year. But I'm delighted that we have the opportunity to preserve two properties for social housing use by buying them from Peabody. I second the motion.
Now this issue is out for debate. I'll first call on Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to support this recommendation and to welcome the proposed acquisition of 3 family-sized properties in South Mimms at Bushy and Boreham Wood. We urgently need more temporary accommodation within our borough, close to the communities where families already live. Keeping families near schools, support networks and employment is essential if we want to reduce disruption and help households recover quickly from homelessness. I welcome the use of this funding grant in this proposal. It reduces the council's net capital exposure and represents good value for money. But we must safeguard against delays or cost overruns and ensure these homes are delivered on time, to specification and ready for families to move in as soon as possible. We should also be clear-eyed that this is a limited grant, now fully allocated. While it helps in the short term, it's not a long-term solution. That is why we need to explore creative approaches to temporary accommodation across the borough, including embedding provision in major planning applications and finding innovative ways to expand capacity beyond existing funding. This proposal is a positive step, but it must sit within a broader long-term strategy to meet ongoing temporary accommodation needs in Hertsmere. And for those reasons, I'm happy to support this recommendation. Thank you.
I'll move over to Councillor Chalice, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to support this report, and at its core, this is about ensuring and providing that we are able to provide secure, suitable homes for families in need across our borough. And by acquiring these homes, the council is strengthening its ability to meet that demand, particularly for family-sized accommodation, in a practical and compassionate way. It's good to see that it has strong value for money and particularly in terms of refurbishment costs. And I welcome that these are existing homes rather than new build, with mainly internal refurbishment being required, which supports our sustainability commitments and allows the properties to be brought into use quickly. So thank you so much for the work that's going into this, and I hope we can all support it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move over to Councillor Sachdem. Maybe you would like to add your voice to this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I rise also today to support this proposal for funding temporary accommodation. The phrase temporary accommodation can sound quite dry, like it's just a line in a report. But for the families who end up needing it, it's anything but. It's safety, it's dignity, and the first bit of stability in the middle of a crisis usually. We're talking about parents and children who may be fleeing domestic abuse, facing homelessness, or dealing with serious financial hardship. For them, a roof over their head isn't just shelter, it's a lifeline. It's a child being able to sleep without fear and a parent being able to breathe, regroup and start planning again. And all of us must have seen this up close along our journeys. I've spent years working on issues of vulnerability, exploitation and modern slavery, but also last year I worked really closely with one particular resident in Potters Bar with issues around accommodation, and it really brought home to me firsthand how stressful and complicated this can be on a day-to-day basis. The uncertainty, the waiting and the impact on mental health, it's a lot. But we also have to keep our goal in mind. Temporary accommodation can't become the destination. It must be a stepping stone, a bridge to something secure and permanent. And to that end, I really agree with what Councillor Sullivan is saying about having in place a long-term sustainable strategy, as these needs are only growing, unfortunately. So yes, we need to fund it properly. We also have a duty to keep improving how we deliver it, being efficient, joint up and resident focused, because every delay or gap in communication lands heavily on families who are already struggling. So I do support this proposal, and I hope we can continue doing everything we can to make sure no family in Hertsmere is left waiting with uncertainty, and that every child has a chance to grow up with security, dignity and hope. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move over to Councillor Rosehill.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Mayor. In principle, I support the careful use of external funding where it delivers genuine additional housing capacity and long-term benefit for our community and our residents. One of the reasons I am broadly supportive of this approach is that acquiring standard residential homes and properties can meet our local housing need without further reliance on houses of multiple occupation, which many residents across the borough are rightly concerned about. That said, support must go hand in hand with financial discipline. These acquisitions should not represent clear value for money over their full life, not just at the beginning of their purchase. I would expect full consideration of ongoing management costs, maintenance liabilities, and the long-term impact on the council's balance sheet, particularly in a tight financial climate. Safeguarding is also critical where properties are acquired for housing vulnerable families and individuals. There should be robust oversight to ensure placements are appropriate, support is also in place, and local communities are not left carrying unintended consequences. So, if these acquisitions are managed prudently, allocated fairly, and governed with the proper safeguards, then this approach can be part of a really balanced response to housing pressures in Hertsmere, and I support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Matthews, did you reserve your right to speak?
No, he spoke.
Oh, you spoke. Okay. Okay. I'll call on Councillor Newmark to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the points that were raised by Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Rosehill on finances and projections, as members will be aware, when this report went to Cabinet, there was obviously a companion confidential Part 2 report had to be held in Part 2 due to commercial sensitivities, but the finances were fully interrogated, and that financial model for these acquisitions was supported by the opposition members who were present. Councillor Sullivan was certainly there. I can't remember who else was at that point in the meeting. There is a reasonable amount of contingency allowed for in the budget, and I have every confidence that these homes will be delivered on time, on budget, and be put into use at the earliest possible moment, not only providing that important temporary accommodation, but also easing the drain on our temporary accommodation budget and reducing the number of families for whom we can only supply temporary accommodation outside of the borough. I do want to address the point that both Councillor Sachdev and Councillor Sullivan raised in terms of temporary accommodation just being a staging point. And of course, they're absolutely right. In an ideal world, we don't want to be putting people into temporary accommodation. We want to be putting people into permanent accommodation. And as much as we can pick away at the edges of the problem by acquiring properties here and there, the reality is that the way we get people into permanent accommodation is by building homes. So please, Councillor Sullivan, get your people to stop blocking the developments that will provide people with the homes that they desperately need.
Yeah, I think we need to go for a vote on this particular issue. Yeah. Members, are we ready to vote on this issue? It's unanimous. Thanks so much. Yeah. We're going to look at agenda item number 12. This is the decision report on schedule of meetings for 2026 and 27. Members, there is one change for the planning technical meeting in October, moving to Thursday, the 1st of October 2026. I call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really do hope that our calendar of dates isn't going to be contentious. It's always a huge juggling act to fit everything in that we need to fit into. We're an aspirational council. We're a busy council. There's lots going on. We do our best to accommodate everything that needs to be accommodated. I'd like to thank our Democratic Service team in particular for the sort of huge and unenviable task of not just assembling and timing and scheduling all of these meetings, but producing the wonderful colour-coded spreadsheet that sets it all out so clearly on one page. And I hope that we can agree this today without any unnecessary contention.
Okay, I'll call on Councillor Sullivan to second this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this item. I welcome the clearer forward planning and the way the calendar explicitly acknowledges religious festivals, including those in the Christian calendar, as well as Jewish, Islamic and Hindu festivals. That recognition helps members and officers plan their time more effectively and respectfully. However, a calendar is only as meaningful if we commit to it in practice. The emphasis must be on doing everything possible to avoid last-minute changes, which create instability for committees and place unnecessary pressures on both officers and members. But I want to say thank you to officers for making the adjustments we have suggested, especially with that recent PTM amendment that we've had tonight. It is equally important that papers are accurate, free from error and published with sufficient time for members to properly read, digest and prepare. When this happens, meetings become more focused, discussions more constructive and decisions more robust. We believe that this approach will lead to a more purposeful meeting and better outcomes for the council and the residents we serve. Thank you.
Okay, now this matter is now open for debate. I shall call Councillor Nicholas, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of members of the administration, I'd like to thank Alan Witherick and his team in Democratic Services for their work in preparing this year's coming calendar of meetings. Producing a clear and workable calendar of this complexity is no easy or, I would imagine, enjoyable task, requiring detailed coordination across committees, member availability, statutory deadlines, public and religious holidays, and so on. We all recognise the time and attention given in order to provide a clear schedule, which will hopefully be subject to the minimum of changes, though we recognise that when these do happen, they are both necessary and unavoidable. I therefore commend the schedule of meetings to you for approval, whilst recognising that it may, at times, be subject to change. Thank you.
Thanks all so much. I'll look at Councillor Green, please. Okay.
Apologies, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't sure if I was going to speak or not. I just wanted to also thank everyone who puts together this amazing document, and also to say that we do appreciate that changes will happen, because they have to. There is absolutely no way an organisation this big with this many moving parts can possibly set every single meeting it's going to have for an entire year in one go and never ever deviate from it. No other business would ever be able to function like that. So changes will happen, and I appreciate that they need to happen as little as possible. Thank you.
Does anyone from across either Hertsmere First or Reform wish to speak on this particular issue? Okay, thanks. I'll call on Councillor Sullivan. Oh, pardon me, you didn't. You have spoken. Yeah, you didn't reserve. Okay, Councillor Newmark, maybe you would like to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought you were going to call Councillor Brisky, but it seems his group leader didn't want him to speak. To echo the thanks to officers for putting this schedule of meetings together, I think Councillor Green has made the point that things do change. When opportunities arise, we need to grab them. We need to be agile and flexible, but equally we do need to do our utmost to plan things as far as possible in advance. I would just finally remind members what we are doing today is approving this as an initial schedule of meetings. There is still scope to sort of tweak at the edges in advance of it coming forward to be set in stone at the annual meeting of Council in May. I commend this report to you.
So are we ready for a vote, please? From my monitor, I've seen that it's unanimous. Yeah, it's been carried. We're going to reach over to agenda item number 13, which is the decision report on consolidated constitutional changes for January 2026. I call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As ever, this constitutional change report contains an eclectic mix of both major and minor changes. The minor ones are effectively cleaning up and tidying up. I don't intend to sort of spend much time on those. The major changes largely have come about because of the recent proliferation of opposition groups. We now have Hertsmere First, we have Reform UK, we have an independent councillor who's not with us. I'm not sure what the difference is between being an independent group and an independent councillor. I don't quite understand how it all fits together. I don't know if following his lunch with Mr Farage earlier this week, Councillor Bright's going to be moving over to the reform benches. Time will tell. But the point is, things change. And now that we have this proliferation of opposition groups, we have had to change the way in which speeches are proportionally allocated across the parties during the course of these council meetings. Effectively, the bulk of the major changes to Section 4 of the council procedural rules do that, and to cut a very long story short, they enable the smaller opposition groups to effectively divide speeches between themselves. They won't all or both get the opportunity to speak on every report, but there's a degree of flexibility built in. It's a pragmatic arrangement. As I say, things change. We may well have to look at this again in a few months, but it's the way forward at the moment that everybody has worked together at CMDP to consider a fair and equitable arrangement. We've made a few changes on the notice period for questions. Some of them are becoming increasingly technical and detailed, and it's right and proper that we give officers slightly more time to work with Cabinet members on preparing the responses. At the same time, officers had advised that they would like a longer running period for motions on notice and opposition business. However, it was a view of members that if we were extending the deadline on questions, thereby restricting the contemporary nature of them, that we should enable motions and opposition business to come up that little bit closer to council to enable us to take account of events, both local, national, international, as they happen. So we think this is the right blend. And finally, we've just got one sort of tidying up piece towards the end, that when it comes to the order of questions, the Mayor will deal with that in consultation with Democratic Services Officer, because we believe that mayoral decisions always benefit from input from Democratic Services.
Councillor Sullivan to second this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to second these amendments and proposed changes. And I want to focus on the positive impact that they have for the opposition and the smooth running of this council as a whole. The revisions to motions and speaking arrangements strike a better balance between fair access and the practical use of council time. With more political groups represented, it is sensible to keep debate focused while still protecting meaningful opposition business and cross-party working. The alignment and clarification of submission deadlines is also a real improvement. Clear and consistent timeframes reduce confusion, avoid procedural disputes and ensure members, particularly those in opposition, can prepare and participate on an equal footing. I also welcome the increased flexibility around numbers of speakers and rights of reply, especially for opposition groups. This helps maintain balanced debate in this chamber. Finally, the planning-related changes bring much-needed clarity, reduce unnecessary delay and strengthen the council's position, particularly at appeal, while preserving members' rights to call in on applications. That said, this is not the end of the conversation. We'll be keeping an eye on how these changes operate in practice, and if they're not found to be effective or have unintended consequences, we'll not hesitate to bring them back to CMDP for review. So overall, these changes have the potential to improve transparency, efficiency and scrutiny across the chamber. Thank you.
This matter is now open for a debate. I'll call on Councillor Richard, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, as a former group leader myself, I've seen firsthand that CMDP is a really effective way of getting these kind of minor changes and more substantial changes through in a very effective way of working. We're being asked to approve a series of updates to our constitution. These changes developed through all-party work, which over the last year has become a more complex and diverse political picture, ensure that the Constitution stays up to date, clearer and better suited to supporting efficient council meetings. The proposals simplify how motions, questions and deadlines work, bringing consistency to timings and helping everyone understand the process more easily. They also rebalance speaking rights, keeping debates fair and manageable. Importantly, we're clarifying several planning procedures to make decision-making more efficient, especially around major applications, member call-ins and the delegation needed to negotiate planning obligations during appeals. And these updates will help avoid delays and ensure sound decisions. They do not change policy direction, they simply make governance clearer and more effective. I commend the report to Council.
Councillor Gray, perhaps you would like to have your voice.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Newmark, Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Richards. You pretty much said everything that I intended to say, so all I will say is ditto. I think it's really important to understand how CMDP works. It's there as a cross-party group to look at our constitution, how we can improve our constitution. It's a very, very good committee, actually. We have some really sensible discussions and we reach landing points that we truly believe will allow the better operation of this council meetings, along with making democracy much more open and transparent. That said, as Councillor Sullivan alluded to, our constitution is a living document and we do regularly monitor the changes and effects that we've put in place to see if they have the desired outcome. Should they not, or should they lead to other problems, we're always happy to go back and revise. So thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
I'll call on Councillor Newmark to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think really it's all been said. Councillor Sullivan's right. We will keep these changes under review, but equally a period of stability would be welcome. I think most of us sitting here in this chamber became councillors to change the area that we represent, not to keep changing the constitution. So on that note, I urge members to support this report.
Thanks. Members, are we ready to vote? It's unanimous. It's been carried. Oh, no, pardon me. Where is Councillor Chalice? Where is she? Oh, she's out. Okay, okay. Oh, no. She's not missing actions.
Still unanimous for the
Yeah. Perhaps she. Okay, Yeah, please. Yes, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to visit a decision report of the constitution and appointment of members of the council's committee for January 2026. Members as mayor, I shall move the recommendation as set out in the report. I call on Councillor Newmark to second. Oh, pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this report, and I wasn't going to reserve my right to speak unless anybody else intends to speak. I understood this was going... Are the speakers? Yeah, okay, I reserve my right to speak then.
Councillor Richard, do you want to say something about this issue? Okay, that's good. I'll move over to Councillor Morris. Councillor Kaza, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome this report with greater enthusiasm as it brings much-needed stability to some of our committees. From a licensing perspective, for example, this municipal year has been rather disruptive so far. Between the mandatory training session and our first meeting in September, the committee faced the loss of the late Councillor Plancy, a by-election, and then that vacancy to be filled up in time for our September meeting, only for that membership to change again in December. But despite this, the committee's work continues, and I can now confidently say that the licensing committee, through its membership, has stabilized to a sufficient degree that we can conduct committee business with the rigor that it needs. And I look forward to seeing all members of the licensing committee at the March meeting. Thank you.
On my list here, I think Councillor Sullivan. Oh, okay. I'll skip over you then.
Sorry, Ms. Mayor, I was just going to put a bit of clarity that in this paper there isn't any changes to the licensing committee, so the members are not voting on that proportionality change tonight.
Well, Councillor Bright, I think I recognize you. If you want to say something, carry on.
Why not, Mr. Mayor? I mean, you know, I've not been up. It's like it's really 9 o'clock. Yeah, see that? Everyone goes, they go shush when anyone else speaks. When I go, they go shh. This is good. Mr. Mayor, look, proportionality is a very strange bedfellow, as those involved in machinations ahead of the last meeting discovered. There's only about, I think, I worked out 3, perhaps 4 councillors out of 39 that actually know how proportionality works. That's not a criticism. It took me about 15 years, and I was leader for 10 of those. It's very complicated. But we are getting a bit more practice. So I do think that as a consequence, we should be less critical and more excited to learn a little bit more about how this works at the council. As far as I'm concerned, there won't be any further changes due to me, and news of my demise is being well over-reported. But it is nice to know I've not been forgotten, and I'm grateful for the mention. In the meantime, I'm very happy to back this particular number of proportionality changes, and let's hope that we've got it finally sorted out before we get disbanded next year. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, members, are we ready to vote on this? Is there any?
He reserved his right. Councillor Newmark reserved his right.
Oh, Councillor Newmark, yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought this was going to go through formally, but it seems like sort of every other child is getting up to speak. The only real question I would ask of Councillor Bright when it comes to proportionality is, were he and Liz Truss the sole component of the current Conservative members in the proportionality at his recent lunch with Nigel Farage, or were there more of you?
Okay, I think we need to go for a vote on this particular agenda item. Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, yeah.
Oh, we've got an abstention. No, we haven't. We have got. It's unanimous. Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's unanimous. Yeah.
Councillor Selby out of the room, yeah.
Oh.
I think these members, she's just,
Yeah.
she was out of the room, so that's
Okay.
okay. She missed
Oh,
the vote.
I think
No,
she-
she's missed the vote. So
Okay.
call it, it's carried.
Okay, the vote has been carried. Okay, thanks. Then we're going to reach over to agenda item number 15, Special Urgency Decision Quarterly Report. Council, can we please note that in the last quarter, one key decision has been taken in circumstances of special urgency relating to the EFS financial update of 2026 at the 14th January 2026 Cabinet. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
It's just a key note.
Yeah. Yes, please. I would like to require. Is it well noted? Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great. We're getting somewhere now. Yeah.
Agenda item 17.
Okay. We're going to go over to agenda item number 17, report of the leader of the council. The process for dealing with the leader's report is clear. The leader will present their report, followed by up to 5 minutes from the deputy leader. After that, there will be 45 minutes for questions and answers by the leader. This includes a response by the leader of the opposition group who may speak on matters relating to the report for the same length of time as the leader of, or a minimum of 10 minutes. After this, other members may wish to ask questions of the leader, avoiding personal statements, and only raising questions on matters raised by the leader. I will expect you to raise your questions of the leader succinctly and not make lengthy statements. Councillor Newmark may choose to call on a cabinet member or a committee chair to respond to questions. So I now call on the leader to present a report. Yeah, Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Friends, I want to open my first report of 2026 by offering our deepest condolences to the family of Carol Denby. Carol was known to so many of us as one of Boreham Wood's old school community activists. Carol had a deep commitment to her town, to her country, and to her community. She was known in particular for her dedication to the Scouting movement, and of course, for her tireless work for the Royal British Legion. She was the face of the poppy appeal around here for so many years. She'll be sorely missed. Our thoughts and our prayers are with Len, Audrey, and the family. I also know that many, many local people have been profoundly affected by the tragic and untimely death of Charlotte Needham in the tragic Swiss ski resort fire at Crans Montana earlier this month. Until very recently, Charlotte was a pupil at Bush's Emmanuel College. She was well known and loved by many local families, all of whom I know are feeling Charlotte's loss at this difficult time. On a happier note, I'm pleased to be able to pay tribute to Boreham Wood Football Club for their magnificent achievement of sitting at the top of the National League for most of the festive season and a large part of January. After a small blip last night, they're currently in second place, but I'm sure normal service will soon be resumed. And I know that all members will join me in sending our good wishes to Danny Hunter, Luke Garrard, the entire team, and thanking them for the pride that they continue to bring to our area. Yesterday also saw the by-election for a casual vacancy at the South Mims Parish Council. Now, the fact that Reform UK triggered an unnecessary by-election given that the council has no powers of general competence, a simple co-option could have sufficed. Costing the taxpayer some £10,000 was truly shocking. So I particularly congratulate newly elected town councillor, the independent candidate, Mark Hedison. He did well to trounce the Reform candidate up against their well-funded machinery, and I hope that they'll take note before repeating the error of using a local parish council as a political playground at the cost to our local residents. Now, as members will be aware, January always marks the intensive period of budget setting in local government, and we've seen some of that earlier today. And I don't want to preempt our budget debate set for next month. However, I can't wait until February to talk about that unprecedented good news for local government funding that we referred to earlier, which emerged in the last fortnight of 2025. And of course, its impact upon our draft budget proposals that were approved by Cabinet last week and issued for consultation on Monday. But before I do, I want to take this opportunity to emphasise that the budget consultation really matters and is really the opportunity for local residents and businesses to have their say and make a difference. Since we adopted the AI-driven Zen City consultation platform a couple of years ago, we've successfully grown the budget consultation response level from the single figures that used to be the case into the early hundreds. And we want to build on that even further this year. So I do encourage people to take a look at the budget documents. You don't have to read all 400 pages. There's a really good, digestible, couple of sides summary. Do take the time to look. Do take the time to read. Officers will be available to answer questions that you may have. But please, I'm asking the public and local business to engage with our budget-making process. Now, the last fortnight of 2025 really was a pivotal moment for local government funding, and in my view, the Secretary of State delivered an early Christmas present when he announced the outcome of the Fair Funding Review and our final draft funding settlement for the next 3 years. Councillor Shenton is right to express caution. One would expect our finance portfolio holder to dampen down expectation, and he does that job very well. But as I said earlier, this is palpable evidence that the decade of Tory austerity is over, and more money is available and will be spent on our key frontline services. We do, for the first time in recent memory, have an end to the instability and uncertainty that resulted from the year-on-year annual settlements. And finally, we see an end to Johnson, Sunak and Truss's policies of taking money away from areas impacted by deprivation, like my own ward, and redirecting it to leafy Tory heartlands, like, as Sunak himself said, Tunbridge Wells. And Hertsmere has benefited, and we have got a better than expected outcome. We have been able to issue a medium-term financial forecast showing a balanced budget for the next 3 years for the first time in over a decade. And we've been able to publish a draft budget that represents a growth in core spending power of over £10 million across that period. So, as I said earlier, and alluded to in my response to Councillor Cars's question, at Cabinet I announced a really significant package of immediate investments in our frontline services and economic growth. Almost £300,000 per year of new investment in street cleaning to reverse the impact that those years of Tory austerity have had on our public realm. New litter teams, more vehicles, new equipment, restoring washing of our high streets that they took away, and new capacity to clear fly tips more swiftly, bringing back pride in our places. And that's not all. We're doubling down, literally doubling down, on the success of our new uniformed enforcement officers. Their focus on environmental crime and antisocial behaviour has increased the sense of security and the sense of cohesion around here. Those bright red vests have become a familiar and a welcome sight. And that's why we're investing over £200,000 per year plus some capital funding in doubling the frontline capacity of that team. More officers, more patrol vehicles, more coverage, more hours, and more legal and logistical support to see issues through to closure and prosecution. You wanted us to fill the gaps where the police don't have the resources to do it, and we've started to do that. And this new investment will take it to the next level. And as I said earlier, I've also announced a £75,000 per annum fund to support further growth of our screen arts sector that does already and will continue to bring valuable jobs and opportunities and hope to our area. Elstree Studios, Fairbanks, Sky, the Screen Academy, and a whole host of ancillary businesses around them. The ecosystem, from catering to electricians, carpenters, set builders, they are the ecosystem that keeps attracting those BAFTA and Golden Globe and Oscar award-winning productions to our area. Their businesses help support our high streets during these difficult times for retail. But we can't sit on our laurels. Competition's strong, with major investment in the sector from other parts of the UK. This local growth fund will ensure that we continue to maintain both our competitive and our qualitative edge. Members are rightly concerned that the latest ONS data shows the position in those wards that score most highly on the indices of multiple deprivation has deteriorated further, and the problem has spread. And that's why we're delivering an increase in Ward Improvement Initiative Scheme, WIS funding, available to individual ward councillors in those wards impacted by this problem in Boreham Wood and now Potters Bar. They'll increase by over 550% to £5,000 per member, enabling more meaningful interventions at the grassroots. But we also know that deprivation exists across the borough, and it's often hidden. And there are so many fantastic hyperlocal projects that often help to address that hidden deprivation. So we'll also be increasing the WIS funding available to every single councillor in this chamber by 25%. More money, more resource, more activity, right at the heart of our communities and right where it matters, because that is the difference that our progressive administration is making. And in a similar vein, I'm really proud that we are continuing to deliver an unprecedented level of economic growth around here. And I think that a key driver of that success has been our relentless work around the skills and training agenda. And that's why I'm particularly pleased to have participated, together with a number of other members, in the groundbreaking for the new Community Technology and Innovation Hub at the former White House pub in South Mims last week. This project will bring together teaching space, community space, robotics labs, podcast studios and video edit suites, AI capacity and much, much more to the heart of our community. This will be a borough-wide asset, available to schools, to students and adults to use to develop new skills or to adapt existing ones and to thrive in our increasingly IT-driven world, all at no cost to the taxpayer, thanks to us acquiring the site and a £5 million 15-year operating budget through our partners at DC01. Together with our new data centres, the immersive experience and our advanced creative industry sites, we're planning for the future as a council by laying down the kind of high-tech infrastructure that we'll need to compete in this new AI-driven economy. It's a huge boost, and despite the naysayers, it's a win-win for people in our area. Finally, I want to thank Hilary Shade and our partnerships team for the fantastic community conference that we delivered yesterday under the aegis of our local strategic partnership, Hertsmere Together. At a time when so many councils are closing down their LSPs, we've done the opposite. We're growing ours and we're innovating with it. Over 100 leaders, staff and activists from community groups joined us at the Williots Theatre for this half-day conference tackling the theme of community cohesion and development. And in light of the growing challenges from those who in recent months have sought to exploit tensions in community relations around here, we continue to strive not only to maintain and enhance the positive inter-community links that have characterised our borough until now, but to become a national beacon in this field. And I thought it was really important that we focused on this theme at this particular juncture in time. Because as much as Hertsmere is quite rightly seen by many as a safe place to live and as an attractive place to live, it's easy to assume that cohesion will simply look after itself. But cohesion isn't a self-watering plant. It needs consistent nurturing, curation, and attention. And friends, as we enter a period of local government reform and reorganisation, it's my view, my personal view, that there's a real and present danger that alongside the many benefits and efficiencies that the move to unitary authorities around here will bring, we need to sound a note of caution that bigger councils and more remote councils will struggle to curate and nurture community in the way that our existing boroughs, districts and boroughs have been able to over the past half a century. So our conference covered every dimension of this theme, from hate crime to exclusion, from interfaith relations to loneliness, from social media to disinformation. And in developing responses and solutions, we heard from national experts and benefited from county-level insight data. I'm proud that our council is the arena for these important conversations that go way beyond token box-ticking exercises. And in the weeks and months ahead, we'll continue to build actions and strategic interventions based upon those discussions, because that is what community leadership and leadership of place is all about. So as we move further into the first quarter of 2026, the challenges are coming thick and fast. A budget to approve, the final phase of our local government association corporate peer review coming up next month, the creation of our new project management function, revolutionising the heart of the operations of this council, a local plan really taking shape, action on HMOs, evidence gathering and site allocations happening at pace across the planning team, the development of Bushy Golf and Country Club, a project that stumbled and stuttered for so many years that this administration is bringing to fruition, high street regeneration in Boreham Wood and Potters Bar, and those are just a few examples. So local government might be reorganising, but as we enter the third calendar year of this administration, our commitment to deliver on a green, aspirational New Deal for Hertsmere remains as fresh and as active as ever. Thank you.
Councillor Shinton, as Deputy Leader, would you like to add your voice?
I will just say a few words. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't delay you. I'm sure there's other stuff to do. It was fantastic to see the lights in Bushy that the leader mentioned. They went down. They were very popular. Some teething problems, but I don't think anybody really minded. It was just great to see them there. And I agree with the urgency for getting the country club in Bushy completed. We are in our last year without a unitary hanging over us, and there is a sense of urgency. We really do need to get things done. I'd just like to say that I think whilst I have no problem with Boreham Wood getting promoted, second to Rochdale. And the most important thing, other than Rochdale, of course, the funding settlement we have got was going to go one of two ways. The way it did go, or one of our other advisors said, no, you're going to lose all your accrued business rate growth and just get the cut. And that really would have put us in a very difficult position. So I was absolutely delighted just before Christmas when I heard that we had been allowed to keep our business rate growth, and we can go into this last 2.5 years with some prospects of achieving things we wanted to achieve across the whole council. A 3-year settlement is definitely a good thing. Last Christmas, the head of finance and his staff were working on getting the budget out and getting the documents you've passed today out, because the government insisted on releasing the information in the last week before Christmas. I'm delighted to say that you can watch England losing miserably in Australia in future years rather than having to work over Christmas. And it's great to see the money that we're putting into community enforcement, to improving cleanliness of our towns. There have been good reasons in the past why money was tight, but people notice these things, and I'm delighted that we're able to now fund them. So, a good year, lots to look forward to, lots of cooperation with the opposition to look forward to, I'm sure. And thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'll now call on Councillor Sullivan to respond on matters raised in the leader's report as the leader of the opposition. And you have the same amount of time that Councillor Newmark has exhausted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I firstly echo the remarks made by the leader about the deaths of Carol Denby and the tragic passing of Charlotte Needham in the Swiss ski disaster. Our thoughts and prayers with their loved ones at this time. Residents listening tonight will hear a lot about the Fair Funding Review, and it would be understandable to assume that this automatically means extra money for Hertsmere. The reality is a bit different. The Labour leader has spoken about a £3.5 million increase next year and also £10 million over 3 years as new funding. But as my colleague Councillor Abhishek has proved, we've received a 5% cut. But much of this is repackaged funding Hertsmere was already receiving, combined with assumptions about business rates and an assumed 2.99% council tax increase. So it isn't simply extra money coming from central government. Residents will still be paying a share. And that council tax rise is particularly important. Hertsmere families are already facing rising costs of living, higher energy bills and everyday pressures. Yet this administration is planning to add almost 3% on top of that. That is a burden people will directly feel in their pockets. We welcome the certainty of a multi-year settlement, and we support investing in services where it truly benefits residents. But as Conservatives, we cannot agree with a narrative that presents this as a windfall or hides the impact on local families. Residents deserve honest information about where money comes from and how much they will have to contribute. Fair funding matters, but so does fairness for the people who pay for it. Yes, there are positives. Long-awaited certainty from a 3-year settlement, recognition of our historic business rates growth, and protection against a cliff edge loss. As a critical friends, the Conservative group can welcome that stability. But we should also be frank. Business rates growth that prudently sat outside the base budget is now being pulled into day-to-day spending, and one-off gains are being used to support an ambitious capital programme alongside pressures from local plan and the LGR. So the test for the administration tonight is honesty. Will it spell out in plain cash terms how much of this increase is simply rebadged or repurposed money that Hertsmere was already receiving? Will it acknowledge that homelessness and domestic abuse grants are broadly flat in real terms once rolled over together? And that rise in placements and expensive temporary accommodation still fall back onto the general fund? And will it admit that without the assumed council tax rise and continued pressure on fees, this budget would not balance, whatever warm language is used about fair funding? Fairness in funding is welcome. Our residents deserve clarity, not spin, about who is really paying for this budget, a mix of Whitehall formulas and increasingly local council taxpayers. Councillor Kaza said this is the first medium-term financial strategy. Councillor Kaza, I'm reliably assured we have had a medium-term financial strategy for 15 years. On the point of the financial strategy, I'm very concerned, and as someone who previously sat on the Personnel Committee, that the administration is only planning a 3% pay award this year for our staff and 2% thereafter, at a time when councils everywhere are struggling to retain experienced staff, workloads are high and the cost of living remains significant. This feels unrealistic and disappointing. If we truly value our workforce and want to attract and keep good people delivering services for our residents, the financial planning must reflect that, not quietly building pay assumptions that risk undermining morale and retention. After listening to the Labour leader, I want to say a few words about what Conservatives' values mean, especially from the opposition benches. People watching this council don't want political theatre. They want steady judgment, straight answers and decisions rooted in real life. That matters even more at a time when national politics is full of headlines about sackings and defections, including Robert Jenrick, leaving after his dismissal by Kemi Badenoch, and when locally some have chosen different political paths, including to Reform UK. For us, this is not about personalities, it's about principles. Being Conservative means responsibility, fairness across all our wards, all our communities and for every resident, and a common sense approach. We must not make blanket assumptions as to what residents want or need. They must be listened to and asked, and their views taken into account when shaping policy and spending their money. Not a socialist ideology being thrust onto our residents and catapulted into communities by this administration's decisions without transparency. It means respecting taxpayers' money. It means asking the questions residents would ask themselves. Are plans affordable? Are they thought-free? Are people being listened to? Here in Hertsmere, our role in opposition is clear. We will support what is right, challenge what is wrong, and always put residents first, not ideology, not headlines, and not political convenience or gain. That is what Conservative values look like in practice. Calm, constructive, without ego, and focus on delivering for local people. Next week, we mark Holocaust Memorial Day, a moment not just of remembrance, but of reflection. We remember the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children murdered for simply being who they are, alongside the millions of others persecuted by the Nazis. We remember where hatred, dehumanisation, and the silence of good people ultimately led. We remember all the genocides and mass killings since the Shoah. These lessons are not abstract, and they're not confined to history books. They are painfully relevant today, particularly in Hertsmere, home to one of the largest Jewish communities in the country. For many residents, Holocaust Memorial Day is not distant history, it is family history. At this moment, it's appropriate for us all to remember the sad passing of Harry Chaim Ulmer, MBE, who passed away last week at the age of 98. He survived Buchenwald concentration camp, which was liberated by the Red Army in 1945, coming to the UK as part of the boys and moving to Glasgow. He came speaking no English, yet completed his highest 2 years later, graduating as a dentist, becoming a British citizen in 1950, and serving in the British Army as a dentist. He went on to being a practicing dentist in Potter's Bar, in Selborne Dental Practice, the very dental surgery used by me and my family today. This is the epitome of resilience and British values. May his memory be for a blessing. That is why we must be honest about the climate this year. In recent months, events in the Middle East have been used to justify an unacceptable rise in anti-Semitism here at home. Jewish communities have been made to feel fearful in London through marches and rhetoric that too often stray from political protest into intimidation and hate. And let us be clear, criticism of governments must never become hostility towards a people. The lesson of the Holocaust was not only never again, but never again anywhere, and never again to anyone. That requires moral clarity and courage. It requires us to challenge anti-Semitism wherever it appears, overt, disguised, shouted, or whispered. As a council, it is our duty to stand unequivocally with those who feel targeted, promote community cohesion, and ensure that the horrors we commemorate next week do not echo in our own streets. Remembrance is meaningless unless it shapes how we act today. I want to talk about hope in our communities, because for many people this winter, hope is being tested by very real pressures. The cost of living, rising fuel bills, and concerns about community safety. Here in Hertsmere, hope doesn't come from slogans, it comes from people stepping up. Volunteers in food banks helping families put meals on the table. Those giving their time to emergency services like Hertsmere. And residents and councillors raising money for charities quietly and consistently. I also want to thank our council staff, many of whom worked over Christmas so essential services could continue while others were able to spend time with their families, and that commitment is noticed and appreciated. That is what real community looks like, people looking out for one another when times are tough. Our responsibility in this chamber is to match that spirit. Take community safety seriously, recognise the strain rising fuel costs placed on our households, and make decisions that support, not undermine, the resilience of our communities. Hertsmere has a big heart. Hertsmere is not broken, regardless of what other political parties want us to believe. If we keep our focus on protecting residents and supporting those who are struggling, there is every reason to be hopeful, even in difficult times. I also want to speak about misinformation and disinformation, because these issues seriously undermine trust, and trust is what communities rely on to feel safe and supported. Too often, complex issues are reduced to headlines, rumours, or social media posts that spread faster than the facts. That doesn't help residents, and it doesn't help this council do its job properly. We all have a responsibility to not share or amplify stories online about matters we don't fully know the facts on. Even well-intentioned posts can cause confusion, fear, or harm. Here in Hertsmere, residents deserve clear, honest information from those they trust. Disagreement and scrutiny are healthy, but they must be based on truth, not distortion or speculation. As councillors, our words matter. Leading by example means sharing accurate information, correcting falsehoods when we see them, and keeping social media responsible. That is how we build confidence, protect community cohesion, and ensure people feel secure in their council and their neighbourhoods. Finally, I want to return to HMOs, an issue that affects so many residents across Hertsmere. Over the last months, I've led our HMO Task and Finish group, listening closely to residents' concerns and gathering evidence about the impact of poorly managed properties. At the recent Cabinet meeting, the administration considered our recommendations. And while I accepted some, I cannot understand why they did not back measures residents have been asking for, such as additional licensing powers, tools we could use now to improve streets, safety and quality of life. I wrote to the Housing Minister, Matthew Pennycook, before Christmas and received a response last week saying exactly what we all knew. Our administration have the powers if they choose to use them, words directly from a Labour National Cabinet member. This is exactly why the role of Conservative opposition matters. Our residents know they can trust us to listen to their concerns, speak up when the administration delays action, and push for practical solutions, not just ideas on paper. And we see this trust every day in messages online and in person. Being in opposition does not mean standing aside. It means holding the administration to account, fighting for residents' interests, and offering constructive solutions when others are slow to act. That is how we turn concern into action and why the people of Hertsmere can rely on us. Mr. Mayor, our message tonight is simple. We are a principles constructive opposition. We will challenge where the administration falls short, support what is right, and always put Hertsmere residents first. From fair funding, community safety and HMOs, to hope in our neighbourhoods and the memory of those we must never forget. Our commitment is steady, practical and rooted in real life. That is what Conservatives offer in Hertsmere. Calm, responsible and focused on people. And that is why residents can continue to trust us to speak up for them and work for them, whatever the challenges ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I now call on any other members to raise any questions that they may have regarding matters raised in the leader's report. Yes, Councillor. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you. Do you know, there were great speeches we just heard, and they were really interesting. And one of the things that I heard in, if I call him my friend, but there was an old, I think Morris can help me here, there was an old television games hostman that used to use that a lot, wasn't there? He used to say, my friends. Hughie Green. That was the man. Do you remember him? Oh, dear me. Anyway, going on to the council stuff, right? You mentioned high-tech infrastructure in this AI world, which I tend to agree with you. We're going that way, aren't we? Now, so how much? What is this council doing in relation to AI, and how much are you going to save off your budget, which is coming out shortly, because of AI? So, and maybe you can expand on how we're actually using AI in this particular building. How much is it saving us in staff costs, in monetary costs, in all sorts of things, in planning, in environment? Maybe you can expand how we're using AI. Thank you.
Well, in keeping with the listing that I've got here, I'll go to Councillor Clapper, then Councillor Butler, and then next, Councillor Allen. Yeah, please. Okay.
We don't take them through.
Yeah, I'm taking them three. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Clapper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What an interesting evening. I didn't realise we were going to be listening to a party political broadcast, so thank you very much for that. Maybe somebody's copied the speech that Kemi was doing this evening, trying to keep their members in check. So I will keep this local. Firstly, I just wanted to talk about the Hanukkah lightings. I was really delighted. I know that myself, along with many members of this council on all sides of the chamber, went to some amazing events. There was the first night in Boreham Wood, which was so incredibly attended, down to the last night where we had an ice sculpture in the pouring rain in Radlett. I think following the tragic events in Sydney, they were really powerful reminders of how our community should come together. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to not only everyone who attended during difficult times, but particularly to Hertfordshire Constabulary and to the CST who did so much, I'd like to put on record, to keep us and our community safe through what was a very difficult and challenging time for the whole Jewish community. Moving on to the fair funding and the capital investment, I heard what you said, Councillor Newmark, both tonight and at Cabinet last week. Very pleased to hear about the investment in our high streets. You know, we need proper investment in our high streets to try and make sure that we're increasing the footfall, to make sure that people are spending in our high streets, and also to improve the mental health for our residents, because when you live in a lovely realm and a good high street, then the whole area functions better as a whole. So I would like to ask from you, when will we start to see the particular detail of exactly how that money is going to be spent? Will there be parity and fairness across all of the areas across the borough? I know that there are some high streets that do need much more significant investment, but I want to ensure that high streets like Radlett, for example, aren't left behind, because although Boreham Wood High Street needs quite a lot of investment, there's some concerning numbers with regards to the footfall in some of our smaller high streets, so I'd like to make sure they don't get left behind. As a former portfolio holder for economic growth and a current member of the panel, very pleased to be on there. I know how important an issue this is for both our residents and our businesses. And just lastly, how am I doing for time? With regards to the by-election that you brought up, Councillor Newmark, I'm sure you'd have preferred that there was no candidate or no election, which isn't that surprising given that Labour and the Conservative Party are trying to cancel elections all over the country. But we on this side of the chamber believe in democracy, and sometimes there is a price and there is a cost to that democracy. And on that note, we on this side of the chamber would like to send our thoughts and best wishes to Councillor Myers, who has definitely paid the price for the cost of democracy. We wish you a very speedy recovery. Thank you.
Councillor Newmark, I think you can respond to Councillor Quilty.
Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Quilty and Councillor
I think the normal process is that I respond to everybody that's asked questions.
Councillor Quilty, Councillor Sullivan. You know all of us. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Sullivan, thank you for your remarks. There was a lot of substance there. First of all, in terms of the increase in core spending power, it's 3.9 million next year, not 3.5 million. As I said earlier, the direct comparison is in the money available to us to spend, which has shifted from a cut of 11% to an increase of 19%. It's spelt out and accounted for in the budget papers. I think that is a massive increase in the money that we have available to us to spend on delivery of services for local people. You can challenge whether or not you think it's new money. The reality is that the way core spending power has been repackaged is that we, Labour, have ended the kind of local government Hunger Games that the Tories perpetuated, where councils had to bid against each other and fight against each other for ever-decreasing pots. That's now rolled up into our single revenue grant. I think it's also the case that when it comes to funding for homelessness, you're sort of a year out of date, because you might recall that around this time last year, we were thanking the government for the very large and very significant increase they had given us in funding to be used for homelessness provision and advisory services, and that has sort of already come to fruition and been part of the current year's budget. So I think that you may be playing catch-up on that one. On council tax, look, it's a debate for budget night, but at the end of the day, I think everybody knows that it was the Conservatives who baked in the necessary 2.99% increase. If we don't do that, we're effectively left in a scenario in which we have a collateral effect, and it will come to haunt us, and we'll be playing catch-up years down the line. And that's a point that Councillor Sachdev made in his budget speech, the last budget speech that he delivered, and it's a point that I said I agreed with him at the time, and I still agree with him today. Look, you used the language of windfall. I've never used the language of windfall. I think that would be a serious overstatement of where we're at. What has happened is that we have seen a process of starting to address the damage that was done in the years of austerity, in the years of public service cuts, in the years during which Truss and Johnson crashed our economy and expected local people to pay. We've turned a corner. We're starting to claw back. But no, I didn't call it a windfall, and I don't think it's a windfall. I think that we have a meaningful amount of new money to spend. If you want to keep challenging that and say that we're wrong and say that you don't believe us, then it's very simple. When we present a balanced budget next month showing that increased expenditure, leaving our coffers and going into public services, if you think that is a fiction, then vote against it. But the reality is we're presenting the budget, we're planning the services, we're delivering the investment, and however you want to dress up your objections, it's going to happen. Now, I was surprised that you brought up Robert Jenrick, of all people. But you're right. We're not here to talk about national politics. But I'll tell you what I think about the Jenrick situation, because the lesson we learned from that is that it doesn't matter if they put on a Tory rosette or a Reform rosette or a blue dress or the turquoise trousers, or looking respondent this evening. I should have put my red tie on. But whichever rosette they wear, they're the same people who failed the British public. Jenrick was a health minister who left millions of people stuck on NHS waiting lists. He was an immigration minister who presided over an open borders experiment, and a treasury minister during the worst decline in living standards on public record. Britain was failed by these people, and Reform will fail us again. While the other parties are squabbling amongst each other on national politics, we're here as a progressive administration working with a progressive government to tackle the cost of living and get our country and our area back on track. I want to thank the principal opposition leader for her remarks in relation to National Holocaust Memorial Day, and I'll be saying more about some of those themes at the ceremony, which I hope as many members as possible will be attending on the 27th of January. But I did want to pick up one thing, and I'm particularly proud of Hertsmere's engagement in HMD for this reason. We've seen, shockingly, that up and down the country there has been a huge decline in the number of schools who are participating in Holocaust Memorial Day through educational programmes and events. That's shocking. I was actually involved in the original legislation that came out of the Stockholm Declaration and established Holocaust Memorial Day in this country. I worked on that with the former MP for Hendon, Andrew Dismore, and the former MP for Hertsmere, James Clapperson. It was a tremendous all-party piece of work. But at the heart of framing Holocaust Memorial Day in the British statute books was the intention that we would honour the commitment and the promise of never again by educating future generations. And the fact that in the post-October the 7th, 23 political climate, schools feel that it is somehow more difficult or contentious or politically sensitive for them to mark Holocaust Memorial Day is a tragedy. But I'm really proud that that's not the case in Hertsmere, where take-up in our schools remains high, where our Mayor's central Holocaust Memorial Day civic event will take place in Hartswood College, our largest local secondary school. And I had the pleasure of meeting with our guest speaker, both the daughter and daughter-in-law of renowned Holocaust survivors, and we've worked with her to develop a video resource that is being rolled out in local schools next week. So that national trend is deeply problematic, but I'm proud that in Hertsmere, it's another one of those national trends that we're bucking. I also fully endorse her remarks about the role of voluntary sector and community groups. She mentioned Hutsala, the community-wide voluntary ambulance service. Together with Councillor Butler, I had the opportunity of participating in Hutsala Hearts' AGM just over a week ago. Tremendous event. Couple of hundred people there. The response times that they're delivering as a volunteer ambulance service, are in the minutes, and they really are saving lives around here on a daily basis. That's why I'm really pleased to be able to tell you this evening that we are very close.
Pardon me, Councillor Newmark. Can I interject? Councillors, it's about 5 minutes to 10. Can we go further on?
Yes.
Up to 10:30. Okay, that's great then. Okay, carry on, Councillor Newman.
We are very close to concluding a deal with Hutsala to enable them to obtain the freehold of number 39 Theobald Street in Boreham Wood as a new permanent headquarters and ambulance station, which will be combined in a multi-use development with additional housing on the site. It's a great use of that site in the heart of our community, contributing to our voluntary sector organisations and enabling us to provide additional housing at the same time. This is how public assets should be used to support our community. I understand the motivation behind her remarks on social media and disinformation. I would simply say everybody is entitled to due process, and every one of us must take seriously our responsibilities when it comes to safeguarding. On HMOs, I'm well aware of her correspondence with the Minister of State. I believe that she hasn't quite given a complete representation of the letter that he sent her, and would urge her to place it in the public domain. Councillor Clapper, absolutely agree with your comments regarding Hanukkah celebrations around the borough. I know that we held more public Hanukkah celebrations this year than ever before, and I believe we held more than any other borough in the country. I'm particularly proud of that. As I said at our last meeting, in the current climate, it is important that our Jewish communities feel they are able to celebrate moments like Hanukkah with confidence and with pride, particularly in light of the terrible events at Bondi in Australia. I thank her for her supportive comments in relation to our use of the additional core spending power, and I take seriously her point about fairness. I'm not sure parity is quite the word I would use in this case, but fairness and availability of those services based on genuine need. That's why, in addition to the revenue expenditure, we have also brought forward capital sums to enable purchase of additional vehicles and equipment, and it's those vehicles that will ensure the additional enforcement officers and additional street cleaning and litter teams will be able to get around the borough with agility and won't be tied down to any particular locality. On the question Councillor Quilty raised, and I'm pleased he raised it, because we are actually, through our Cabinet Member for Resources, bringing forward an AI policy to Cabinet in March, and it will hit this Council chamber shortly after that, which will give us the framework that we need to have a much more extensive rollout of AI in our operations. We are already using it. I'm not going to comment on rumours that its most prolific use in the council might be for councillors to prepare speeches for meetings like this. I'm sure that nobody is responsible for that. Equally, I'm sure that officers are not producing ChatGPT-based reports. However, it is slightly more complicated than it simply saving money. What it does do is enable us to direct resources in a much more effective way. One of the first areas in which we've been using it is we've been part of a multi-council trial in the area of use of an AI platform for validation of minor planning applications, which, using planning officers' time, can take up to 2 weeks of a single officer's time. This AI platform can perform the same job with the same degree of rigour and the correct outcomes in under 2 hours. Now, as somebody that's familiar with the planning environment, you will know that planning officer resource is the most valuable resource. So we're not going to save money or make planning officers redundant. What we are going to do is redeploy the time they spend on the routine task of validating applications, a checkbox exercise, on the more complex and valuable use of their time in actually getting into the nitty-gritty, preparing reports and determining applications. You've already seen that we were a pioneer of using AI when we adopted the Zen City platform, and it has revolutionised the way we do communications and consultations. So those are just 2 examples, but we will be able to expand on those in greater detail when we hit the debate around our AI policy in a couple of months' time.
I have a few councillors who propose to speak, and I have a listing here. I'll go with Councillor Butler, then next Councillor Allen and Councillor Ranney, and then Councillor Smith. So, Councillor Butler, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief because I know we've got some motions on the agenda, and I think we need to get to those. Just to point out, I'd like to also support the leader's opening remarks around Carol Denby. She was actually my cub leader, and I did learn a lot from Carol and Len, who was actually my scout leader. But we also have not recognised, and I've not seen her recognised through the mayoral years in the past. So I'm wondering if, on behalf of this council, maybe the leader might welcome sending some flowers to the family from Hertsmere to say thank you for the work that she's done, because that work wasn't just done within Elstree and Borehamwood, it was done throughout the borough, and unfortunately she was never recognised through the mayoral years. So I think it would be a nice suggestion through this council, and I'd also like to welcome the £5,000 increase on the WIS Ward Initiative scheme, especially within the Cowley Hill ward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Allen, please.
Yeah, bad news for Bushy Station, which won't get the money to improve access. There's no lift. If you're in a wheelchair or pushchair, it's impossible. And that's despite a long campaign by our colleagues in Watford, who are also campaigning for the rezoning of all Bushy Station and all the Watford stations into Zone 6. And now those stations are the local stations for many people in Bushy. So would the leader work with the Mayor of Watford and us to help put a word in?
I'll come back to you, Councillor. Let me see. I have Councillor Rani.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that update. How will local residents, schools, and young people be directly involved or benefit from the LSD Film Studio Immersive Experience Project? That's the question.
Yeah, Councillor Smith, please.
Multiple deprivation recently published by the government with specific reference to Hertsmere and Hertfordshire. And also, does the leader support random testing of councillors for Class A drugs?
Before I reach over to the leader, I'll come over to Councillor Sussman and also Councillor Brisky. Then thereafter the leader can respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Newmark, earlier this evening you suggested that Councillor Sullivan tell her people to stop blocking planning applications. Are you suggesting that planning should be whipped, or that we don't have a planning committee if we're unable to freely make decisions?
Okay, Councillor Brisky, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In his report, the leader referred to the regeneration of Shenley Road, and as this road is in my ward, he'll be unsurprised to hear that I take great interest in this. In particular, I would be grateful if the leader could set out his plans to lobby Link to change the rules of the banking hub scheme, as other councils are doing, so that the presence of a nationwide branch will be disregarded given their branch promise. In Link's last review, they recognised that the nearest banking branch for business customers is located in Edgware, which is why they recommended the installation of a cash deposit machine for business and personal customers at Tesco and Boreham Wood. Does the leader really expect local business owners and sole traders to travel all the way to Edgware, perhaps with vans that are not ULEZ compliant, in order to take out loans to grow their businesses? On a similar note, we mustn't ignore the present state of Boreham Wood High Street, and we simply cannot wait for any long-term regeneration to address this. We have too many dodgy shops which put pressure on rents for legitimate businesses. Residents question how many...
Excuse me, what's your question, please, to the leader?
Okay. Owners of two of our best restaurants in Boreham Wood have contacted me with enormous concerns about football and have questioned our licensing policies, given that we seem to have an extraordinary number of fried chicken and kebab shops. So can the leader tell me whether he will be waiting for the long-awaited high street regeneration before urgent action is taken? Because these questions need to be answered.
Councillor Newmark, you are at liberty to respond to those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Butler, I think that it's a lovely idea in terms of sending flowers, and I will be suggesting that all of those councillors representing Boreham Wood wards consider contributing rather than it coming from the public purse, because sadly, all too often we have activists of that generation passing, and I think that the right thing to do is for councillors to take on that responsibility and to chip in. Councillor Allen, thank you for your question. Really happy to take that up. As he knows, we've already engaged with the Deputy Mayor for Transport and the lead GLA member for Transport on some of the zoning anomalies that come up through students who are in Boreham Wood Zone 6 but unable to benefit from the TfL student discount. So I think that if we can be a bridge with sort of Watford and Bushey into the GLA and the Mayor's office, anything we can do to progress that through the good offices of Councillor Oakley at her transport portfolio, we will. Councillor Rani, I think we've already covered the benefits that the immersive experience will bring, in particular to local schools on the education agenda. Councillor Smith, look, the reasons behind the steady decline of those areas, those wards or parts of wards and the indices of multiple deprivation are complex and largely or in large part at least, beyond our control. But I think what we've tried to do with the initial intervention around WIS funding is deliver the sort of interventions that don't require a generation or a 10-year period to make a difference. In terms of Class A drug testing, I did make a written response to the question that was tabled. Given the statutory responsibilities this council has and the work it already does to seek to prevent drug use and drug crime, it would seem to me a logical extension of that, and I'm very happy to discuss the matter further with officers. In terms of Councillor Sussman's question on planning, I think you really did understand very clearly what I was trying to say, which is your group, the members of your group who sit on the planning committee, need to take the advice of our professional planning officers when policy compliant applications come up. Stop turning the planning committee into a political battleground and stop exposing this council to hundreds of thousands of pounds of costs at appeal. We know what you're doing, we see it, and don't think that we won't call it out. In terms of high street regeneration, I think Councillor Brisky clearly knows nothing about regeneration if he thinks it happens overnight, and clearly hasn't been reading his papers and following the process that this council has embarked upon. It's all there, the reports are available. I'm not going to do your homework for you. In terms of Link, well, the Tesco cash deposit came about as a result of our engagement with Link and our commissioning of the survey that he referred to. The rules are not set exclusively by Link. They're not the sort of only party in this process. I think the rules are fair and reasonable, and his comments about business banking shows that he has absolutely no understanding of the way that modern business banking works, as his comments doing down our shops on Shenley Road as dodgy show that he has no understanding of the implications of the words of elected officials in this chamber. Our shops in Shenley Road and on the high streets up and down this borough are shops that by and large are run by small business people struggling to make ends meet, being propped up, as many of those chicken and kebab shops are, by people working long hours in our studios and in our creative sector. Do not come to this chamber and make bland comments, broad comments, doing down hard-working local businesses, because Councillor Clapper is right, Councillor Sullivan is right when she says Hertsmere isn't broken, so don't create the impression that our local businesses are in some way broken as well. Let's talk them up, let's support them, let's not brand them as dodgy.
I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to all of you for your various contribution. This agenda item has come to a close. We'll move
point of order, Mr. Mayor, 15.2.
Report.
I've raised a point of order under 15.2 of the Constitution.
Yeah, excuse me, point of order. Yeah, Councillor Greer, what do you want to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose a motion without notice, 13C, that we reorder the agenda of the business. And as there's members of the public here who have an interest in the last motion, I propose we take them in reverse order and start with the LGBTQ plus one. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, pardon me. Is there any seconder? Okay, yeah, Councillor Butler has seconded it. Okay, can we go for a vote?
All those in favour of changing the order?
Yeah, please. Pardon me? One at a time, please. Yeah, please, Councillor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, what are we actually being asked to vote on? Because it didn't seem to me that it's a motion to change the order of the agenda, but what precisely is the motion?
It's all about. Use your microphone, please. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Is LGBT issue. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you need to stop the filibustering and move to a vote, please.
Yeah, please.
He proposed in the second.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I'm running this show and other things, and nobody tells me how to go about it. You know? Yeah. Excuse me. You may propose something and it, but now we're saying I'm running the show and other things. So you don't. Nobody talks over me. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you just confirm, or can legal confirm that if this gets voted through, does that mean we still continue the rest of the item for the 3 minutes remaining, and it happens when you get to the end of the item, or does it go for immediately?
Is that agenda item?
Okay. Okay. Let me. I'll seek advice from my legal team here. I'll be with you one minute. Yeah, Councillor.
We have a procedural motion before you.
Councillor Sullivan, yeah, okay, we'll go through that, but we have a procedural motion first. Yeah. Pardon me? What were you saying?
It's been proposed and seconded, though. So.
Yeah, it's been proposed and seconded. Yeah, so we're going to go with it. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Mayor,
do we have to go with show of hands?
On a point of order,
please.
On a point of order, the motion without notice that was proposed should have started with a motion to move to next item before moving the change of the agenda be ordered, and it did not do that. It was moved during an item before that item had completed.
How he, Councillor Hudson Jones, he has a point. He has a point. No, wait, excuse me. Wait. He has a point, I think. Wait. No. You said it well, you know. I commend you, you know.
If I just answer Councillor Gray's point. Councillor Gray, I'm merely saying you can still have your procedural motion.
Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the greatest respect, and this is to all members of the Chamber, if I want to say what seemed to happen there was that the item 17 was closed by yourself, Mr. Mayor. So I understand that Councillor Gray at that point took the decision to stand up and raise his point. Therefore, it was by no means trying to end the previous motion. Now, the previous item that we're on, number 17. Thank you.
Thanks for your contribution, Councillor Chalice. Okay, 1 minute. Let me get in consultation with my. Yeah. Excuse me. I think with this, it was proposed that the item should be taken in a reverse order because we have some folks who came from afar off and other things. So yeah, please,
thank you. It just occurs to me that we're sort of jumping. Sorry, I'm a bit unstable today. Jumping around just a little bit. We haven't concluded the previous item, which is the leader's report, and I have no issue with asking for not discussing the item, but should we not be concluding what is actually already in process, particularly as I was about to ask a question under the leader's report, or are we going to discuss this item, debate it, and then go back to it? It's nonsense.
Yeah, Councillor Morris, earlier I think there was a show of hands. All of those who wanted to speak, I gave them an opportunity to go about it, but I didn't see you show your hands.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say something?
Yeah.
The Constitution gives 45 minutes for questions. They're not always taken up, and historically they weren't. The Mayor had a list of questions. All those people on the list were able to ask their question, and Councillor Newmark responded to it, and then the Mayor closed the meeting. As Councillor Chalice says, Councillor Gray then proposed a motion which was seconded to reorder the business on the agenda into reverse order so that we would take as the next item of business the motion that is on the end of the agenda. Now, as that is clear to everyone, Mr. Mayor, can I recommend that you now move to a vote on it?
Yeah, let's go. We can all go for a vote with regards to, yeah. I think everybody has voted. We can.
Yeah, that's carried.
Now we move over to agenda item 20.3, the motion in support of LGBTQ and trans residents. I call on Councillor Meyer to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm proud to move this cross-party motion in support of LGBTQ+ inclusion, and in particular trans inclusion, because at its heart, this is something that's very simple. Whether everyone in our borough feels safe, respected and able to live openly without fear. This motion does not ask the council to take sides in a culture war. It asks us to stand by our existing duties as a public authority and fairness, dignity and evidence-based decision-making. Across Hertfordshire, long before this debate became as heated as it is today, LGBTQ+ communities were already building safety, care and visibility. Places like the Spotted Bull in St Albans were not symbols, but they were lifelines. Groups like Hearts Aid, the Crescent, and later trans-led organisations such as Cortex were responding to real needs that public services had not yet caught up with. That history matters because it reminds us that trans people are not new, and this conversation is not new. What is new is the level of anxiety and hostility that many trans and non-binary people now experience in their everyday lives. At a time when some national institutions are stepping back from inclusion, local leadership matters more, not less. Councils are where people actually encounter public services. If we get this wrong, people feel it immediately. And if we get it right, we create trust. This motion explicitly supports evidence-based practice, including equality monitoring, so services can understand who they serve and where the barriers exist. That is not ideology, it is how competent public services work. It also commits us to marking key awareness dates and working with trusted local organisations, many of whom already operate across Hertfordshire, supporting young people, families and those facing isolation. As local government faces uncertainty and potential reorganisation, one thing must not become optional: our commitment to equality. Structures may change, but values should not. This motion says clearly that Hertsmere is a place where LGBTQ+ residents, including trans residents, are seen, respected and supported. And I commend it to the Chamber. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I call on Councillor Nicholas to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to rise to second this motion. As councillors, we have a responsibility not just to deliver services, but to set the tone for the kind of borough we want to be. This motion does exactly that, and our role is paramount. The message today is clear and rooted in our existing commitments, sending an important message to our LGBTQ+ residents, particularly trans and non-binary people, that they are seen, valued and supported. We must not ignore the reality that trans people experience disproportionate levels of harassment, discrimination and fear, which more recently has been fuelled by misinformation and increasingly hostile public discourse. When such hostility goes unchallenged, it does real harm. Silence from public bodies can feel like indifference, and that is why visible leadership from us today really matters. As the VORG member champion, I am acutely aware that marginalised groups often face intersectional risks: hate crime, abuse, homelessness, drug and alcohol dependency, and poor mental health outcomes. Inclusion and safety are not abstract principles. They actively concern whether individuals feel able to exist safely in public spaces and can access support and, most importantly, live without fear. Therefore, this motion is designed to align closely with our work to prevent violence, harassment and intimidation in all its forms. But we are also building on what we already do well, supporting Pride, funding and hosting inclusive workshops and honouring our equality commitments. This is not a symbolic gesture. It is about providing practical steps, clear signposting, partnership working, inclusive employment practices, and reaffirming that discrimination has no place here. By supporting this motion, we are affirming consistency, compassion and leadership. It says that Hertsmere stands for dignity, respect and safety, not just for some, but for everyone. Thank you.
This matter is open for debate. I'll call on, Councillor. Councillor Amron, please.
You've forgotten my name, Mr. Mayor. That's good, right? Thank you. So I rise as leader of Hertsmere First and a supporter of LGBTQ+ residents and trans residents to speak in support of this really excellent motion. At its heart, this motion is about something really, really simple: the right of every person in our borough to live free from fear, discrimination and hostility, regardless of who they are or who they love. LGBTQ+ and trans people are a valued part of our society and our community. They are our neighbours, our colleagues, our friends and our family members, and they deserve dignity, respect and protection. When discrimination and hate go unchallenged, silence from public institutions can feel like indifference to those most affected, which is why visible, practical support from this council really does matter so much. It sends a clear message that Hertsmere is a place where everyone belongs and where prejudice has got no home. Supporting this motion is absolutely not about politics or ideology. It's about fairness, decency and community cohesion. By standing up for our LGBTQ+ and trans residents, we strengthen trust, we bring people together and we affirm the values that should define our borough. I'm very proud to support this motion and I really do urge colleagues from all sides of the chamber to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call upon Councillor Sullivan, then I'll go to Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't intend to speak much on this item because I know time is very, very short tonight, but thank you, Councillor Myers and Councillor Nicholas, for your words. On that basis, I rise to move a motion without notice under item 15.10 in the Constitution, motions in debate, that the resolutions be taken in parts and be voted on singly tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Gray, please. Pardon me?
Mr. Mayor, for voting in parts, I do have a seconder.
Okay. Who is seconding? Oh, yes. Okay, you're seconding. Okay, that's great. Karen. He's seconding. Can it be noted, please? Huh? Okay. And do we go?
Just to assent, is that agreed? Do we agree to take this, the motion?
Excuse me, do we agree
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor, we agree.
Okay.
Can I? Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Gray, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move a motion pursuant to 28.1 to suspend standing orders so that the meeting can continue until the motion has been voted on. Thank you.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay.
The motion is, as the meeting is that agreed, or do they want to vote?
Yeah, do we go for a vote? Please? Okay. Yeah, we go for a vote. Yeah.
Members, can I, first of all, it's been agreed to take it in parts. This is now a motion to continue the meeting till the vote is taken. Otherwise, the guillotine is going to come down towards the end of the debate. So if Mr. Mayor, if the meeting is happy to agree to that, you can do it by assent. Otherwise, there needs to be a vote on it.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Gray, yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to speak in support of this motion. For many people, this is not an abstract debate. It is their lived reality. For trans people, and especially our young trans people, the message they are receiving right now is that their existence is conditional, that their safety is up for discussion, and their dignity depends on who speaks the loudest. And that has real consequences. When institutions hesitate or stay silent, people feel it in their mental health, they feel it in their confidence, and whether they believe they belong. Silence is not neutral, it sends a message, whether we intend it to or not. This motion sends a different message. It says that Hertsmere understands inclusion as an action and not as a slogan. It's about whether people feel safe accessing our services and whether young people feel seen, where their families know their council will stand up for them. Trans people have always been part of our community. They've lived here, worked here, volunteered here, and contributed for generations. What has changed now is the level of hostility they now face. This motion doesn't take away anyone's rights. It does not erase anyone else. What it does do is draw a clear line that says fear, exclusion, dehumanisation are not values that this council accepts. At a time when some institutions are stepping back, it matters when local government steps forward. This motion tells trans and non-binary residents that they are welcome here, that they are valued, and they are not alone. And as we look forward, let's not forget our history. The modern LGBTQ+ rights movement was ignited at Stonewall, led by marginal voices. Amongst them was Marsha P. Johnson, a black trans woman whose courage and activism helped change the world. I stand here today because of people like her who refuse to be silent. I urge colleagues not to be silent and to support this motion.
I'll call on Councillor Myers to sum up, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank members across the chamber for a thoughtful and respectful debate. This motion does not diminish anyone else's rights, and it does not require anyone to abandon their personal views. What it does is affirm, as a council, we will continue to act fairly, lawfully, and with compassion. Local authorities set the tone for places we serve. When we send a clear message that people are welcome and protected, it matters far beyond this room. I hope that members will support the motion and demonstrate that Hertsmere remains a borough where everyone can live with dignity and without fear. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Members, pardon me?
Remember, we're voting in parts.
Yeah.
Take 7 votes. So, Mr. Mayor, you take 7 votes.
Please make some clarification, please.
Sorry, just to explain how this is going to work, these are the 7 resolve actions which are on the motion. What will happen is we will do a vote on each one in turn. So you've got these in your order papers anyway, but these are the 7 votes which we'll be taking in order. We won't be switching between the screens, it will just be the vote screens.
Okay, yeah, we go for a vote now. We're voting on number 1. Yeah.
Greg, thanks for on that. No control.
Well, if we have any problem, then we could have a show of hands, please. Because there isn't a signal, so.
Just 1 second.
Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, this has been carried. Then we'll go to number 2, please.
A lot of work to be done.
Right, members, we're going to take vote number 2, which is on the screen behind you. We're going to do it by a roll call vote. I'm going to call your name out in order. Who's not in today, by the way? Anthony Clarkson. So, and I'm going to ask you whether you vote for, against, or abstain. Shall we go? What?
Watson's not here, so
yeah.
It's under Graham. No, Graham's here.
Yeah. Councillor Alexander, how do you vote? Councillor Allen, how do you vote? Councillor Amron, how do you vote?
For.
Sorry?
For.
For, thank you. Councillor Bright, how do you vote? For 2. Councillor Brisky, how do you vote?
I abstain.
Councillor Butler, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Chalice, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Clapper, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Cohen, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Mayor, Mr Mayor, how do you vote?
For, please.
Councillor Giorgio, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Gray, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Green, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Hodgson-Jones, how do you vote? Paul Hodgson-Jones. Sarah Hodgson-Jones. Councillor Kaza, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Prabhakaza, how do you vote? Councillor Lambert, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Matthews, how do you vote? Councillor Morris, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Mars, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Newmark, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Nicholas, how do you vote? Councillor Oakley, how do you vote? Councillor Ponder, how do you vote? Councillor Quilty, how do you vote?
Against.
Councillor Rani, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Richards, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Rosehill, how do you vote? Councillor Abhishek Sakdev, how do you vote? Councillor Meenal Sakdev. Councillor Selby, how do you vote? Councillor Shah, how do you vote? Councillor Shenton, how do you vote? Councillor Smith, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Sullivan, how do you vote?
Abstain.
And Councillor Sussman, how do you vote?
Abstain.
That motion is carried, Mr Mayor.
Thanks so much.
Vote number 2.
Okay. Yeah, number 2 has been carried.
Yeah, I'm going to do another one. Have you got
Okay.
given up pieces of paper?
We're going for...
So this is vote number 3.
Number 3.
Vote number 3 on the screen. Councillor Alexander, how do you vote? For. Councillor Allen, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Amron, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Bright, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Brisky, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Butler, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Chalice, how do you vote? Councillor Clapper, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Cohen, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Mr Mayor, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Giorgio, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Gray, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Green, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Paul Hodgson-Jones, how do you vote? Councillor Sarah Hodgson-Jones, how do you vote? Councillor Kaza, how do you vote? Haji Kaza?
4.
Councillor Prabhakar, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor David Lambert, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Matthews, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Paul Morris, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Myers, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Newmark, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Nicholas, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Oakley, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Ponder, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Quilty, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Rani, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Richards, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Rosehill, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Abhishek Sakdev, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Meenal Sakdev, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Selby, how do you vote? Councillor Shah, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Shenton, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Smith, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Sullivan, how do you vote? 4. And Councillor Sussman, how do you vote?
Last but not least, 4.
And that is carried with 2 abstentions.
It has been carried.
Mr. Mayor, can we now move on to
number 4, please?
So we can now vote on to vote number 4. Councillor Alexandra, how do you vote, please? 4. Councillor Allen, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Amron, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Brisky, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Bright, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Butler, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Chalice, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Clapper, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Cohen, how do you vote? 4. Mr. Mayor, how do you vote?
I'm 4.
Councillor Giorgio, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Gray, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Green, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Paul Hodgson-Jones, how do you vote? Councillor Sarah Hodgson-Jones, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Kaza, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Prabhakar, how do you vote?
4.
Thank you. Councillor David Lambert, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Matthews, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Morris, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Myers, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Newmark, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Nicholas, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Oakley, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Ponder, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Quilty, how do you vote? Councillor Rani, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Richards, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Rosehill, how do you vote? 4. Councillor Abhishek Sakdev, how do you vote? Councillor Meenal Sakdev? 4. Councillor Selby? 4. Councillor Shah? 4. Councillor Shenton? 4. Councillor Smith?
4.
Councillor Sullivan? 4. And Councillor Sussman?
4.
4. That's also carried, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay.
So if we can move on to vote number 5.
Okay, we're going to number 5. Yeah.
Councillor Alexandra, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Allen?
4.
Councillor Amron?
4.
Councillor Bright?
4.
Councillor Brisky?
4.
Councillor Butler?
4.
Councillor Chalice?
4.
Councillor Clapper?
4.
Councillor Cohen? 4. Councillor Collins?
4. 4.
Councillor Giorgio?
4.
Councillor Gray?
4.
Councillor Green?
4.
Councillor Paul Hodgson-Jones?
4.
Councillor Sarah Hodgson-Jones? Councillor Kaza?
4.
Councillor Prabhakar?
4.
Councillor Lambert? 4. Councillor Matthews?
4.
4. 4.
Councillor Quilty? 4. Councillor Rani?
4.
Councillor Richards? 4. Councillor Rosehill? 4. Councillor Sakdev? Abhishek Sakdev? 4. Councillor Meenal Sakdev? 4. Thank you. Councillor Selby? 4. Councillor Shah? 4. Councillor Shenton? 4. Councillor Smith?
4.
Councillor Sullivan? 4. Councillor Sussman? 4. That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's been carried also.
So-
We're going over to number 6, please.
Vote number 6. Councillor Alexander? 4. Councillor Allen?
4.
Councillor Amron?
4.
Councillor Bright.
Abstain.
Councillor Brisky.
I abstain.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Chalice.
4.
Councillor Clapper.
Abstain.
Councillor Cohen. Councillor Collins. Mr Mayor, sorry.
Yeah, 4.
4, thank you. Councillor Giorgio.
4.
Councillor Gray.
4.
Councillor Green.
4.
Councillor Paul Hodgson-Jones. Councillor Sarah Hodgson-Jones. Councillor Kaza.
4.
Councillor Prabhakaza.
4.
Councillor Lambert.
Abstain.
Councillor Matthews.
4.
Councillor Morris.
Abstain.
Councillor Myers.
4.
Councillor Newmark.
4.
Councillor Nicholas. 4. Councillor Oakley. 4. Councillor Ponder. 4. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Rani.
4.
Councillor Richards.
4.
Councillor Rosehill. Councillor Sakdev. Meenal Sakdev, thank you. Councillor Shenton. Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Sullivan. And Councillor Sussman. That's carried.
Also carried. Okay, we come over to the final one, number 7.
7, we've done 6.
Yeah.
They've all been carried.
Yeah.
And finally for vote 7, Councillor Alexandra, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Allen, how do you vote?
4.
Councillor Amron.
4.
Councillor Bright.
4.
Councillor Brisky.
Abstain.
Councillor Butler.
4.
Councillor Chalice.
4.
Councillor Clapper.
Abstain.
Councillor Cohen. Councillor Collins. Mr Mayor.
Yeah, 4.
Councillor Giorgio.
4.
Councillor Gray.
4.
Councillor Green.
4.
Councillor Handley. Oh, sorry, I do apologise, not here. Councillor Paul Hodgson-Jones.
Abstain.
Councillor Sarah Hodgson-Jones. Councillor Councillor Kaza.
4.
Councillor Prabhakaza.
4.
Councillor Lambert.
Abstain.
Councillor Matthews.
4.
Councillor Morris.
Sorry. Abstain.
Councillor Mars.
With all of my big gay heart, 4.
Newmark. Councillor Newmark.
With my big allied heart, 4.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Oakley. Councillor Ponder. Councillor Quilty. Councillor Rani.
4.
Councillor Richards. Councillor Rosehill. Councillor Abhishek Sakdev. Councillor Meenal Sakdev. Councillor Selby. Councillor Shah. Councillor Shenton. Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Sullivan. And Councillor Sussman.
For everyone's hearts, whatever they may be, 4.
And that is carried, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, it's also carried.
Just to tell members that the guillotine now comes down in accordance with the motion we passed, which means that the motions that haven't been dealt with fall and can be submitted to a future meeting. Mr Mayor, you may wish to close the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
All stand.
Yeah. The next meeting is going to be on the 25th of February. Okay, thanks all so much, and I wish you all well and a safe journey to your various homes.
Thank you,
God bless
Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.